So my apology, recording in progress. Gotcha.
Sorry, I forgot to start that before.
That's okay. So my apologies for that. So part of what we're going to do today is kind of walk our way through that as to what that'll look like. I also want to make sure that we go back into covering measuring today, which is step 6. And I want to make sure we go back over step 7, which is going to be our pre-close. In this situation here, when we start to get into the pre-close part, we're going to have to role play some of this stuff out. You guys are going to have to start saying some things, because the goal of the pre-close is to get as many objections out as we can before we actually present price. Okay. So to give you an idea with that is basically the way I would do it is this. Our pre-close is here. And at the same time too, price is here. Well, when we're presenting price, we're presenting payment as well. I need as many objections on this side as possible than on this side. The reason being is the more objections somebody gives me here, that means the customers aren't thinking of price and payment. And that's what I need them concentrating on, is not excuses as to why they can't buy. So the pre-close is designed to get as many of these out of the way. So on this side, we only have 1 or 2 to overcome, as opposed to the 4 or 5 that we may have on the pre-close side. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's what the pre-close is designed to do. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to role play some of this out a little bit. Before anybody asks, I'm already going to get asked is, do you have any of this stuff written down? Guys, I don't have this stuff written down. This is one of those things we'll have to listen to recordings and hear me say things over and over again, because there's so many closing scenarios to come up with, or so many ways to overcome stuff. There's no way for me to possibly write it down. Okay. So the stuff that we're going to want to deal with is the typical things we normally get. Let's leave out the exception to the rule bullshit, and let's just stick to what we normally are going to hear. And let's deal with that part. We'll deal with the off stuff later as we get better with it. Okay. So that being said, I think we're all okay on steps 1 through 4. I don't think there's anything else for us to talk about then. Is everybody comfortable with the CPA and with pros versus cons? Are you guys okay with all of that?
Yep.
Okay, good. The big thing I want to make sure that we mention again with pros versus cons, we've already run into this a couple times with some of you that I've already talked to already. Pros and cons, we got to go through that. That's the biggest way to eliminate competitors, especially other vinyl windows, when we start talking about the difference between this type of vinyl versus, hey, there are better ones that have more UV protectants that, that doesn't make the product as brittle, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're covering that.
One thing Terry would say is I don't think we have any questions about the structure or what the pros and cons are, but kind of like we had talked about before the ice and you got sick and everything, is it would be cool if we could get like a recording of you just role playing and going through that with somebody, just so we can see how much you engage with the homeowner, kind of ask them to volunteer things that they know are pros and cons, like how you add those in, just kind of how that flow goes, And it doesn't have to be right now. We could record it separately and send it out.
Okay, so for recording, what we want is we need the meter kit. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Michelle.
I said Terry Man doing role play stuffs.
Just use the camera on the tripod that's in your bedroom. There's one in there.
2 of them.
2 of them.
2 of them. There's the
2 of them.
There's the front view, the back view,
because this is the whole iPad.
top view.
You need to have him do this. No, it's this.
Okay, so we wanted meter kit
There's this.
recording. What was the other recording you just asked for right now?
Terry, I
Just
think that,
the pros and cons.
yeah, the frame type pros and cons, but Terry, I think the meter kit was the question earlier, and I think this would be helpful to the group, is that we have the whole play out of not just the meter kit, but like how you roll out the whole thing from meter to demo.
So basically what you're saying is step 5, right?
Pretty much.
Pretty much a glass package role play.
Oh, yeah,
Say that again.
Glass package role play. Much, yeah.
Just to clarify, when you want the glass package as part of the step 5 role playing, are you wanting him to use the meter kit? Do you guys have those there? Or are you wanting to see what to do until we get the meter kits?
Yeah, even if you gotta like fake the meter, like just for the sake of argument, just to see how it's gonna go on
The
the
wording.
home, the movements, the wording. When am I gonna pull out this tool? When am I gonna pull out this? Like, yeah, literally like a role
they
play.
said, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Kate.
Yep.
Kate. Do me a favor. See, tomorrow you're going to be setting up for the home show, right?
Technically, I'm supposed to do that today. But yeah, we'll do
Technically, well, you will today or tomorrow because you have to set up by Wednesday.
yeah, I looked at it this morning. I'm supposed to be doing that today. Today is Tuesday. I think it's
Okay.
today.
Let's make sure we get together. Cody, in fact, all of us MSPs, we'll get together and I want everybody to, so Cody, how many meter kits do you have right now,
one.
Cody?
I have one
Okay,
meter
so-
kit. And I think I have enough glass for 2 meter kits.
So Portland has one. Dallas, I know you have one, right?
Yes.
Seattle, you don't have any.
Right.
Cam out there in SLC, you have one if I remember right?
Yeah.
And Phoenix has 2 because Phil and I kept ours. So, Kate, let's get together. I want, for all of us, I want everybody to order one more meter kit. I'll go through the package with you guys today. Kate, while you're doing that, Cody, you and I can get together here in a little bit. We'll get on EDTM. We'll get the part numbers and everything so we can get those out to everybody else as well. But I want everybody to at least order one. And what we'll do is we'll order one about every few weeks until we can get about 6 or 7 of these puppies in there. Unless there is a rep that wants to go ahead and get it on their own, then that's fine too. But if not, this is what we'll have to do to be able to hide that cost for a little bit. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get those part numbers and everything out to everybody by today so we can get more of these in here. But yes, I'll go ahead and do the glass package for you on that as well, which is basically the meter kit anyway. So glass pack and meter kit is basically the same thing. So what you're wanting to know, you'll be able to get through both of those. What other recording did you guys want to see? Other than the ones in my bedroom as Cody put out.
I mean, I would assume step 7, eventually when we get more in depth, that would be nice to see like all the rebuttals, you know, the most common ones, like, you know, eventually. I know we're not there yet, but eventually at some point, definitely step 7.
Okay, very good. That about it then? Cool. Okay, so if we put things down though, and we get into step 5, so the thing to remember about step 5, and we'll kind of go through step by step on this one here a little bit. Number 1, we've gotten out of step 4, so we've already talked about the company. By this point in time, we should have crossed off everything that was on the company portion of the CPA by this point now. So we get into our step 4, the company, we cover the things in our CPA on the company portion of it. We should be able to cross this off, which is now going to go ahead and put us into parts, pieces, and product. Okay. The big thing to start out with, number 1 is the shopping statement, is what I call it. And I believe I wrote this out for you guys already, didn't I?
You did.
When I was in Seattle?
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't need to do that again this time since you guys have already done it, but we want to make sure that we cover the shopping statement. We know that the number one reason somebody's not going to buy is they're going to tell us they have to shop, they have to research, and they have to do their due diligence. So once we've crossed everything off, okay, so did I cover this for you folks? I covered this, I covered this, I covered this. Fantastic. Okay. As far as Windows goes, look, folks, I imagine you're probably like the average person. The average person meaning, okay, you want to make sure you're doing all your research, all your shopping, your due diligence, in other words, to get all the information you need to get so you can make the best decision for you and your family. Is that correct? That's the question we want to ask, and that's the way we want to put that. We want to make sure that we mention those three things there because we know we're going to hear them, so we need to address them. When we get an answer of yes, and you will get an answer of yes here, then we follow up with, okay, that being said, then let me help you with that shopping, okay? There are 5 different types of frames. And then we go through the 5 different types of frames. Aluminum, vinyl. There are actually 3 different types of vinyl frames, folks. We have fiberglass, wood, and then we have a product called Fibrex, which is a wood composite put out by Renewal by Andersen. When we mention Fibrex, Renewal by Andersen is who we want to call out by name. They are our number 1 competitor across the country. There's no avoiding them, so we might as well pull them out and get that name out there. Might as well. Okay. From there, we're going to go through all of our pros and cons of that. Once we go through our pros and cons, then of course we want to ask the closing question. And that closing question being, if given the choice, which frame do you believe to be best for you? More often than not, if we did the things we were supposed to do, they're going to go ahead and pick where we want them to pick. Okay. We pull that piece of paper out of the way, leaving the rest, and then follow up with a micro close. And the micro close question being, you know, out of curiosity, why not any of the other 4 then? And we got to get the customer to tell us why here. We have to get them to close themselves on why they cannot or should not be using any of the other product. Okay. The typical pushback you're going to get when you ask the question of which frame do you believe to be best for you is usually going to be, I'm not sure. It depends on the cost. That's the biggest and number 1 pushback you'll get is that. So that being said, what we're going to want to sit there and follow up with is, okay, let's get price out of the way for a minute. All things being equal, which way would you go now? If price is what the issue is, that's what we want to follow up with. Let's get price out of the way for a minute then, folks. And let me just ask you this then. All things being equal, which way would you go now? What do you think is best for you now? And let's see if we can get them to close themselves on why they don't, why that is. They have to hear themselves say it. The easiest way to sell, you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again, is you have to make it their idea. You have to get the customer to start admitting things. We can't talk them into things. We got to get them to admit things. Talking people into buying things when they buy, fine, they bought. But it's the ones that don't buy because we're trying to talk them into. That's where you make all your money at. Your money is getting the business that others don't get. That's where the money is at. Okay. Any questions about this part at all? Anything? Okay.
Well, I guess
Once
one
we
thing we were kind of talking about yesterday, I think the only one here in Portland that, we were talking about, just keep it up there all the time. Get somebody to tie your hand up there, a little S&M bondage. It's cool. I'm sure you're used to it. What if they do answer like, fiberglass, what did they say? Like, you know what, hey, I'm happy to pay the extra, the fiberglass is what I really want. Then, how would you go forward from that point? Because obviously we don't have a fiberglass sample to show them the car, we don't have fiberglass pricing in-house.
Well, at that point there, I would sit there and ask, well, let me ask you this question, sir, out of curiosity, why fiberglass, sir? Why are we looking for fiberglass? And the biggest
I
reason,
just really like thin frame, I got a mid-century modern home, so I'm willing to pay a little bit more and maintain it just to keep the integrity of, what the designer likes, something like, that's usually what we're gonna find here, that's the reason.
okay, well, and if that case, if that's the answer you're gonna get, we can go ahead and in the end, sit there and let them know, okay, well, not a product that we typically are gonna go ahead and deal with because of the challenges that come with it, folks. So basically what you're telling me is, it doesn't matter what's going on here, fiberglass is just what you're looking for. Look, if you would have walked into a house at this point, think about this for a minute, guys. If you were to walk in the house and 10 minutes into the house, the customer were to tell you, hey, look, I'm looking for fiberglass windows. If you don't sell fiberglass, then I don't want to put it in. At that point, we'd have walked out anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right. So to get that here, and that means we walk out if that's what it turns out to be, because this is what they're insistent on, no big deal. But what we did give ourselves a chance to do is from the time that we walk into the time that we get to this question, have a chance to sit there and build rapport, have a chance to make a friend, get them to know us where we get to know them. And maybe, just maybe, through friendship or through some sort of trust that we build up at this point there, we might can get them to keep an open mind to something else. So I would sit there and ask the question then, look, if fiberglass is what you're insisting on, folks, and probably not something we're going to be able to help you out with. However, let me ask you this though. Would you be able to keep an open mind to something in the long run that might be a little bit better? Would you be open to that or no? No, I wouldn't be. Then we don't need to be there anyway. There's no deal there. It's time to get out of Dodge anyhow.
Okay, no, that makes sense. We had a couple conversations before where you were like, kind of like, hey, if they want to work with us and they want to pay what we charge, like we'll figure it out how to get a fiberglass window on there. So I wasn't sure if you wanted us still like pushing through, if they're definitive 100% for sure, I only want fiberglass, and they're like, I love you, man, like I'm happy to pay whatever to work with you guys, I just want fiberglass. I wasn't sure if you want us running that through and then trying to still get that job and figure out a solution for it, if you want us just like saying, all right, we can't do it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If somebody's going to sit there and tell me, look, I don't care what it's going to cost, if that's what I got to do it. If I got to pay for it, I got to pay for it as long as I'm working with you cats. Oh yeah, make no mistake about this. We'll turn into the Renewal by Anderson fiberglass guy in a hurry when we charge for that one. Mr. and Mrs. Sales Rep is going to make about a $600-700 bill for each window on that bad boy. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, funny thing about money is it makes everything go away. But in this case, in this case here, that's what I would probably hit him at is, hey, look, why are you insisting on fiberglass? And if so, why? Because of this, and this. All right, well, let me ask you this, sir. God willing, the creek don't rise. If I'm not able to go ahead and do that, would you keep an open mind to a product that might be a little bit better? Would you be interested in wanting to hear about that? No, not really. It's either fiberglass or nothing at all. Well, we can get our hands on fiberglass here, but it's going to come at one hell of a cost. I don't care about a hell of a cost. Well, then absolutely. So then we don't mind putting you in debt then. So, I mean, if we're going to get that type of a response, then hell with it. We'll run with it. And I can get that window quick in any market. Shit, I'll order that bad boy through
Hey, Terry.
either Marvin or Pella. Yep.
I tried to ask you this, I think, when you were here, but I'm going to try to organize my words and see if I understand. Like when you say if price is the issue, like all things equal, what's best for you? Like the way that's coming across to me is you're like basically taking the dollar signs away from the bottom and asking them which one. Which to me it's like, if all price is equal, why aren't they just going to go like, yeah, to the more expensive one because it looks like the better product? Like to me, it's asking like, okay, do you want the Corolla? Do you want the Benz or the Lamborghini? And if price is no issue, what do you want? Why aren't people just going to say the Lamborghini? Or maybe I'm misinterpreting your if all things equal question.
Yeah, somewhat, buddy. I mean, if you think about this for a minute, if you use part of your analogy as to what you're saying, I could see it. But when we're telling everybody that, hey, look, here are the pros and the cons of this, and this. You notice that on everything that we do, the cons outweigh the pros. Okay.
Yeah.
So for somebody to sit there and say, yeah, but I want the Lamborghini, now I would want to go ahead and follow up with, okay, well, Lamborghini sounds cool and it's a great looking name. There is no doubt about that. But the question I got to ask you, sir, is what are we, you know, out of curiosity, why something that has so many challenges with it? Just because the price is higher? Because we both know that just because you pay more for something doesn't make it exactly better. So the question on the table I would ask you, sir, is why the Lamborghini for all the challenges that come with the Lamborghini? Other than, or are you the kind of guy that doesn't really care? You just want everybody to know that you're driving a Lamborghini. I mean, which one is it?
Okay, yeah, I understand.
See,
You know, I think part of that too might be the analogy. You know, I wouldn't look at it like a Corolla, you know, a Tesla and a Lamborghini. It's more like a Corolla, a Jeep, a truck, and you know, and a Tesla kind of thing. Like there's all a Lamborghini is a nice car if you want to go to the racetrack. It's a piece of shit if you want to go up to the mountain.
right. You know, so I think what happens is, you know, it's funny because when you put the dollar signs there and all that, you're still going to get that person that, because the average person, right, is price motivated, or they think that they are, because that's the society that we live in, right? So normally that's what you're going to sit there and hear. Well, it depends on the cost. But 99 times out of 100, if you just sit there and ask that, okay, let's get the cost out of the way, folks. Let's just assume everything was the same, all price being equal. Which way would you go? And why would you do it? It's very hard for somebody when you put in writing, here are the pros, here are the cons, for somebody to pick a product that has more cons than pros. It's, you're just not going to see that a whole lot. Does it happen? It does. It does. Because you're going to get that one person that's going to insist that aluminum is the best thing since black sliced bread, regardless of all the problems that it comes with. Okay. You know, the funny thing is Renewal by Andersen probably kills vinyl better than any window company in the world right now. Nobody kills vinyl the way that they do. Nobody. But the funny thing about them, though, is despite how much they kill vinyl, most of the time when a sales rep leaves, a Renewal by Andersen rep leaves a person's house and they didn't sell it, 3 months later, you drive by that house. And the funny thing is, there's vinyl windows on that person's house now. Despite how good a job that they did in killing it. So for some people, guys, it doesn't matter what we do. They're still going to insist on a certain product. But for the most part, though, if we just make sure that that list of the cons is a lot longer than the list on the pros, they're going to go ahead and go in your direction almost every single time. The funny thing with this pros versus cons is I've used this whether I'm selling fiberglass, whether I'm selling vinyl, or I'm selling Fibrex. I've always put the product in the middle, done the same thing, and despite its cost in putting that there, been able to get the customer to go to where I need them to go to more often than not. The trick here with the pros versus cons is make sure your list is bigger on the cons than there are on the pros. And chances are they'll sit there and make the decision for their own, the correct one. Especially if you start out with, I know some of you think it sounds stupid because it sounds stupid every time I say it, but I know it's effective. It's the reason why I say it. I literally tell everybody, look, folks, you know, there are 5 different types of frames. You have aluminum frames, you have vinyl frames. Keeping in mind there's 3 types of vinyl frames, which we'll go ahead and cover that. You also have fiberglass, you have wood, and then you have a wood composite called Fibrex, which is a product put out by Renewal by Andersen. Okay. That being said, the question that we have to ask ourselves here is which product do we believe to be best for us? So Benjamin Franklin used to sit there and say, if you're not sure whether you should do something or not, you should really take a blank piece of paper, draw a line down the center, put the pros on one kind and the cons on the other. When the pros outweigh the cons, chances are you might should do it. When the cons outweigh the pros, you probably shouldn't. So let's take a look and see how that works for us today. And then I go ahead and put that list out of pros versus cons. I realize that whole Benjamin Franklin thing sounds like a bunch of bullshit, because it is. but it's effective because the customer hears that. So it makes sense to the average person. The other person that's going to stand there and think, yeah, I know how that works. I'm a real smart guy. You know, I know the molecular structure of a gnat's leg and all this other bullshit. Okay, you're going to run into that cat. You're going to get that guy that's going to be an asshole about it and not want to go through that and says, I don't need that. I don't need that. You know, I'm a smart person. You're going to get that, guys. But the average human being isn't like that. And our demonstration and the way we pitch to everybody, it's designed for the 80 to 85% of the people that we normally deal with. The 15 to 20% that are those kind of people, we do the best that we can with them. If they want to be assholes about stuff and be difficult to deal with, get the hell out of Dodge. They don't need good windows anyway. I hope they put pieces of shit windows in and they have to call me later just so I can tell them I told them so.
Hey,
Okay.
Terry. Yeah, I had a question, a couple about the pros and cons. For the first one, is it like part of the process and kind of the way it comes off to have to write down the pros and cons? Or what if I had like a sheet just ready to go typed up?
Nope, said that they won't follow along. If you have something pre-printed, you have to be writing it out.
Okay, and then the
That-
second one. Yep.
That is correct. So for those of you who didn't hear the question on the table was, can we have a pre-list thing already set up? Yes, you can, but it's not near as effective because what happens is it's like what you guys would do. If I gave you all 10 steps at one time, it would take most of you within 15 minutes to read through all of it to get to the closing part, which is where most of you want to be anyway. Okay. So the challenge is it takes away because the customer is now not paying attention. They're wanting to go ahead and read ahead. Is one. Number two, if there's a way to get audience participation, it's a little more difficult when you have all the answers pre-made for them already, as opposed to when we're putting things down, we can fire in a question there, you know, hey, look, what else can you think of this? Or, you know, when you sit there and say oxidize, somebody may sit there and make a comment there. If a pre-list is designed, you don't hardly get that. Everybody just wants to read through it to hurry up and get through it. And the thing I don't want to do is I don't want to teach the customer how to speed up. I'm trying to slow them down. We don't want to do anything that's going to speed things up for them. All that's going to encourage them is to have us hurry.
And it validates that you're the expert. You're not taking something offline and like presenting it to them. So you're educating them and you're validating that you're like credible and you're teaching them about the industry. It's like from your.
Oh,
Yeah, right now, Kate, you're probably using the pros versus cons than most people right now, other than Phil. Okay. When you're in the house right now, using it now, how many challenges are you actually you're having in there where you're having a hard time somebody picking your product? How often does that really happen?
It only happened twice and I fixed it. It was fiberglass because I had talked about our fiberglass Provia doors and then I now don't do that. So you know, because I had talked about it too soon, fiberglass Provia, and they're like, well, we love your Provia fiberglass. Why do we get all fiberglass? But now I've shifted it and I made fiberglass a lot longer than it was. And I don't talk about Provia fiberglass before.
Yeah, so more often than not, you're not going to have as hard a time as you guys think. You're really not. Okay. More often than not, if you make your list right, they're going to understand the pros versus cons and why they should go with the product with the most pros, and they're going to pick you more often than not. If you're going through that right, they're going to. You're not going to get near as much pushback as you think.
Just don't
If that
emphasize
helps.
inspection that you just, or yeah, inspection. Yes.
Okay. What other questions about that?
Not a question, but a statement. I do have like this little list I put together with pros and cons. This is not meant to be used in the house. This is just for you guys to have. You can throw it in your bags like a refresher if you wanted to look over it at sometimes. I send it out to the MSPs. It's just the pros and cons of like the different styles. But again, to clarify, this was not intended to ever be used in the house. This is just a refresher if you guys want to reference it.
For sure. I mean, it's a good thing to have on there for sure. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Once we get our pros versus cons done and we get our frame pick, at that point is where I would stop and go, okay, let me go ahead and hold on, because I don't know if he's in the house. You in the house, Phil? Alan. Oh, the weed guy. Okay. All right. Let me call you back. Late.
I'm recording. Was that your dealer
So-
calling?
No, that's our bud tender guy. So anyway, once I get that, this is where I go to what I usually literally say, okay, folks, let me go ahead and get that window and everything for you. I'll be right back. That's when I go to the car. I usually bring my window sample in then, and then I also bring my meter kit and whatnot in at the same time. If I had a parts and pieces bag, then I would bring my parts and pieces bag in, but we don't have a parts and pieces bag developed yet. So GDI is supposed to be making us, but I don't know when that's going to happen, man. I don't know. So that's when I usually go out and get all my stuff there. When I walk into somebody's house, I walk in with just my regular bag, and that's usually it. And that's it. So I have my iPad in that, whatever paperwork, my measuring tape, stuff like that. I have that in there. Everything else, though, I leave out in the car.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you're going out to the car, you're getting your window sample, and ideally you're the glass package set, right? But when you're leaving, you have a bag, you have the glass package set, and you have a 60-pound window sample. How the hell do you get out of the house with all that shit?
How do we what?
How do you get out of the house with all that stuff?
Well, I make 2 trips.
You're like, look, you didn't buy
Yeah,
anything,
I mean-
you just don't carry the shit out of my car.
I make 2 trips, you know? So that's typically what I do anyway. Plus, the other thing is when I'm buttoning down anyway, as and we'll cover that, Mark, I'll table that part of it, because there is, when I make my first trip to drop stuff off, my second trip back into the house is actually when I'm going to warm down more at that point there. So I plan on sticking around for a few more minutes anyway, you know? So, or they can help carry my shit out if they want me out that bad. I don't know, you know? And if they do, make sure you pick up the light stuff, make them to carry the heavy stuff.
Right.
Okay. So you get your sample kit, you bring everything in. Now it's time to go ahead and get into the rest of our step 5. This is where we would do the meter kit at this point here. Meter kit would be our glass package. This is where we can go through all the glass package. We just got to get glass samples. We just got to get meter kits for you guys. So we'll get some more ordered. Literally, we'll have those ordered in the next day or two to start getting stuff out. And what I would say is right now, with the way appointments run, we can kind of swap it out right now and share, if you will. I know it's cheesy, but we can do it. It's better than a sharp stick in the eye right now until we can start getting more of these things in. Okay. The challenge with these things, guys, like I said, it's pricey. They're about $475 a pop for these things. So I wish I could order $4,000 for each place, but I can't sit there and drop 20 G's on meter kits and not put myself in the naughty house. And believe me when I say that would put me way in the naughty house right there. Okay. That's where I would go ahead and do all that. So I'll do the recording for you guys. We will have that now that I'm back. I will make sure that that's done. I don't think I forgot. Phil is out sick too, Diana. He's also messed up as well. So I don't think I forgot that you wanted him to actually do that. So I'll make sure Phil
wanna make
does that.
sure. Okay.
Okay. Just so you know, I didn't forget about you.
Okay,
Just so you know.
perfect. Thank you,
Okay.
I appreciate that.
You got it. I didn't forget. So I'll make sure that Phil makes that up for you. We will have that this week, so you guys have it. We'll get that for you this week. I'll do a pros versus cons on the board for you guys this week on a recording. that we'll have by the end of the week. And of course, the glass package and meter kit's gonna be the same anyway, okay? Cody and the MSPs, what you can do is get a hold of your Provia guy. Ask your Provia guy, can you get the 7-inch sample of the TLK UV sample?
Oh, wait, hold on, I'm putting this on my to-do list. The TLK 7-inch? 7-inch
The T-
TLK.
Yep, the TLK UV. That is going to be this one right here. And it'll say on here TLK UV. And see if they can get you also the TLA Comfort Tech.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay, I mean, I do have one question on that, kind of, this is not to sidetrack this or anything, but I had a homeowner up here that ordered like 3 Provia doors. And a couple of them didn't have any grids on them, but one that was upstairs is white on white grids, and I did the UV on it. And when I walked up the stairs from the inside of the house and I looked through that glass and I saw those grids, I mean, the homeowners never commented, so I didn't, but those don't even remotely look white. They look green because of the UV, like straight green. I can show you a picture of them. I was like, oh my God, which I think is the way it's supposed to be from the UV. Do you ever have issues with that with homeowners? Anybody that comments on that? Because I was shocked that they did not.
well, some people will complain about it, some people will not. What I've always done is when I know I'm putting grids in something, and even when I don't, I get ahead of it when it comes to low E coating. Okay. One of the things I explain to a customer when I'm talking to them about the window is when I'm demonstrating my window itself and explain that the high performance low E coating we use is going to cause the product to sit there and have a different color look to it. So because of that, from the outside, folks, that glass is not going to be as clear as it normally is going to be. So you may have some sort of a discoloration there, like a grayish or a bluish type of tint to it. Just so you know, folks, that is normal. So your white curtains in the background or your plantation shutters in the background, it's not going to show up that way. Unfortunately, you have to give up a little to get a little. And in this case here, to get a better performing product, this is what's going to have to happen to it. So I've learned a long time ago to do that because the better a low E coating gets, the darker it gets also. And the darker it gets, the more it distorts shit on the other side of the window.
Okay.
Okay. So the difference between it's, for example, your TLK UV versus your TLA Comfort Tech is your blue glass. Anlin is the same way. Anlin's Del Mar series in their double pane product, they have what they call a blue glass. That's a much better high performance low E coating, but it's very, very dark. Okay. So knowing that if that's a product you're going to be using, we just have to make sure you get out in front of it a little bit to let them know, because it does look different, Cody, like you said. But as long as the average person is told up front, nobody makes a big deal about it. You know, got to give up a little bit to get a little bit. This is what you got to do to have a better product.
Hey, Terry,
You know.
we can probably do it later, but I kind of want to go back to when you were saying if they don't care about money and they say they want fiberglass and you're like, okay, let's figure it out. I would kind of be lost at that point if the customer was just ready, money was an issue, and they wanted to do fiberglass. And now, if that's not a common occurrence, we can talk about it later. But how
No,
often is that going to happen? You know?
It's not going to happen hardly at all. Okay. But if it does happen to happen, it's a simple deal. Pick up the phone, give me a call.
Sounds good. Gotcha.
That's all you got to do is you shoot me a text real quick. Hey, Shorty, I'm in a house. I need help. Answer the damn phone. Then you call me right away. I'll answer the phone. Hey, look, I've got 10 windows here. They want fiberglass. What are the sizes? What are the operations? What color do they want? Awesome. Charge this.
Gotcha. Okay.
I know what the stuff costs. So, you know,
I appreciate
trust
that.
me when I tell you, we're going to put enough money in front of it that if they do it, it's going to be awesome. And if they don't, they don't.
Right, yeah. No, yeah, I figured like it's not gonna happen a lot, but it was going in my brain like, okay, what if this guy's just ready to go with money, issue, but that cleared it up, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I told you guys this. We sold 10 aluminum windows that cost me $789 to buy all 10. And we sold that job for $13,000. I just went down to Window Depot and bought the damn windows from there. You know, why are we doing aluminum windows? That's a phone call I got. What the fuck is going on? We don't sell aluminum windows. I said, for buying for $800 and selling for $1,300 a piece, we do today. That's what you sold it for, is $13,000? Said yes. Oh yeah, we should be good there. Yeah, you know shit, we should be good there, Sherlock. No shit. So, you
That's
know,
good.
again, our job is to create revenue, and if we have to go outside of the scope to do some things, as long as it makes sense for us, then let's do it. What's the worst they're going to do if we do it? Put us in window jail? Wow, I'm all broke up about that. Hope they serve a good bologna sandwich there. You know. So anyway, so that's what I would tell you, Cameron. Pick a phone, give me a call. It doesn't matter where you're at. Just pick up the phone, give me a call. Shoot me a text first, say you're in the house, I'm stuck, I'm gonna need your help, and I'll answer right away. So, all right. So that's what we'll do from there. Your meter kit. Let's make sure we ask our Provia reps though. See if we can get about 10 of those each. Mark, Cam, Cody, Kate. The excuse we want to give them is say what's going on there. Say, hey, well, look, here's the bottom line. The bottom line is we're running into a lot of black now. Okay. And we're going to have to start going through Provia on a lot of this, but we don't have your glass package to be able to show in a house. So I need that glass package. They're not going to beat you up. Hell, they don't care. They're just going to want it paid for. So whatever it costs us, we'll pay for the damn things, you know?
How many
So-
did you say for the quantity? 10? Okay.
Yep. We'll see if we can get 10 of each. Once we get them in, re-tag them, take the Provia thing off, and then just make sure we put it, you know, re-tag it so we know the difference between the two, depending on what we're showing in a house. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. From here, this is where we don't have a parts and pieces. So we want to make sure that we cover parts and pieces. We can cover parts and pieces when we demo the window. And again, everybody here is going to demo their window a certain way. Me personally, I start from the inside, or outside, I work my way in. I start from the top and I work my way down. All right. The last thing I want to make sure to demonstrate is the things that separate us from everybody else. The major things that separates us, in my opinion, on our windows is the 1.5 inch pocket that our double hung slide down into and our sliders go into. The 3 layers of weather stripping on our double hungs where everybody else has 2. A constant force tension coil, because a lot of these companies do not use that. They're using block and tackle. And then the oh shit, now I can't think of the word. The sash area where it's all enclosed. What the hell's the word for that, Cody?
What do you call them? Continuous balance covers? You call them jam covers.
Jam covers. Okay. So, and I would talk about the closed in jam, or having the jam covers, which in my opinion makes the window look a lot nicer than that one that's all opened up. You know, those are the big things there that I leave for last, because the last thing I want to leave after that is the freeze spray. What I want the customer remembering when we walk away from that window to go remeasure is the things that's going to make the biggest impact. And the thing that's going to make the biggest impact that I want them thinking about is what makes us different than everybody else. And those are the big things right there. As Cam will tell you, Cam has used the freeze spray a lot. And these people wig out to that freeze spray. They do. People trip to that shit. They trip out more to that than they do the heat lamp. It's wild as all get out. So that's what I want to leave in their head is those things right there. By doing them earlier, then all the other stuff you say afterwards clouds up the part that I want them to remember. So in my opinion, that's what I would do is I would discuss that. Leave that part for last. So the way I would demonstrate that is here's our window, go through that. So the bottom line is though, folks, what makes us different than everybody else? Here are the major differences that separates us from everywhere else, which in my opinion makes this product a better product. Here's what I mean. Down here at the sill, 1.5 inch pocket and go through that. Weather stripping, go through that. Constant force tension coil, demonstrate how much easier it is to open and close with a finger or two. Okay. The close covers and then the freeze spray. That'll be the ones that they'll remember the most because that's what separates us from everybody else. Okay. Once we've demonstrated the window, then we have to ask the closing question. And this is the hard one. Okay. Of all the questions you guys are going to ask, this is the hardest one right here. Okay. You demonstrate the window. You say, okay, folks, there's my window, folks. Do you like it? Do you love it? I mean, what are your thoughts here? That's a pretty good window. But is it pretty good enough that this is the window you want to put on your home over all others? Okay. Man, that's a nifty window, but is it nifty enough that this is the window you want to put on your home over all others? Whatever their response is, we have to follow up that answer with over all others. And you can't be afraid here. You can't be afraid. It is the hardest question because everybody on this call is afraid that the answer they're going to get is no. One thing you know for sure, if your answer is no, do what?
I said I'm not worried.
Yeah, I get a lot of people who are like, damn, that's a nice window. We've had RBA out, we've had, Pella come out, we've had Milgard come out, and that is the best window we've seen, like so many times, more often than not. Unless it's the frame thickness, that was usually the only thing.
But you still got to follow up with, that's the best window I've seen. So is it the best window that you would put on your home over all others?
Yeah.
We have to eliminate competitors here. Okay. See, that question's an easy question to ask when you get that kind of an answer before you even ask the question. Then it's the easy question to ask. But when they haven't responded that way and go, oh my God, that's the greatest window I've ever seen in my entire life. When they're just sitting there and going along with you and you've got to sit there and say, all right there, Miss Michelle, Mr. Cody, there's my window. Do you like it? Do you love it? I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you think? And if your response is, that's a pretty good window. It really is. It's good. But is it good enough though, Miss Michelle and Mr. Cody, that this is the window you would want to put on your home over all others? Is this the one? All of a sudden, that question gets pretty damn hard to ask now. That's brutal. That's a tough question to ask. Okay. Because the answer we're afraid of is the answer is going to be no. The good thing is if you get a no here, then we know a couple things. Number one, we probably didn't do a good job here. We probably didn't do a good enough job, not only talking about what's out there, but talking enough about our product. So it still gives me a chance to dig in here and find out. Okay. No, I don't know, man. I mean, it's pretty good, but I don't know about overall others. Well, then I got to ask the question here, boss. What's keeping this window from being the window you would want to put on your home over all others? What would it be? Hey, Kate, you got 10 minutes to jump on that call. Okay, baby?
Okay.
Just a reminder. It popped up for me. So just a reminder. So we can dig in at this point. The challenge is when you don't ask that question now and you get down into the close and all of a sudden this shit starts popping up. We got a different kind of a problem now because chances are you're going to go into a defensive mode and try to defend why they should be buying your product and why your company is so much better than everybody else's. So the question is a tough question to ask. It really is. But it's also a hell of a report card to let you know how good a job you did or did not do. Because the goal here is when they sit there and say, yep, that's the window I want on my home over all others. Now, when I get into the close and I start getting pushback of crap, I am always going to be able to go back with, well, earlier you said this. Now you're saying this. So out of curiosity, what has caused you to change your mind? Because I don't believe you to be the type of person, Miss Michelle, that would certainly pull the window man's leg and sit there and pull the wool over my eyes You don't seem like you're that kind of a person. I mean, I could be wrong. We've only known each other for a couple hours, but I just don't think you're like that. Or am I wrong, ma'am? You tell me. I just don't think so. What is she going to sit there and say? Yeah, I'm a lying piece of shit. That's what she's going to say. So that's why we want to get that question that way, so we can use that. And that's what we really need here. And by doing that, we slam the door on all of our competitors at the same time. Now, what it comes down to now, literally, will be price and payment. And that's it.
What do you
We have
say
a
there
deal
if
for
they
sure.
do- If they do backtrack and they do say something like, honestly, I just said that because I thought it's what you wanted to hear. Like, I genuinely, if you want me to be honest, I'm not sure. What if they do say that at that point?
Well, and so I would sit there and understand that, so you're telling me that because you felt that that's what I wanted to hear, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
a people pleaser. I've always been since I was a kid. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, and so basically you're a pansy is what you're telling me, sir?
Not the first time I've been called that, but I'd rather people I just don't like conflict, so,
Yeah, see, I'll have a lot of fun with this if I'm in the house, but I'm going to hear this probably once or twice a year. Somebody may
Okay.
say that.
Wasn't
Once
sure
or twice a year. Yeah. I'll have fun with it at this person's expense, and I will. I'll talk a little crap here and make some funny about it. But I may get that maybe if it's a bad year, once or twice a year.
They're like, all right, I guess we have to start the whole appointment over. Shit.
So, but
Makes
that's the
sense.
question we have to ask. We have got to slam the door on our competitors. We don't have a choice, or that's going to be the reason why they don't buy. So we don't have a choice. Skip it if you want, but you'll have a harder time closing for those people that want to start thinking about stuff. Okay. Kate's getting ready to jump on this call. We've been at it for about an hour. Take 10 minutes real quick so I can run in here and check my emails and see if my crap is working. I doubt that it is, but this is wishful thinking, just so you know. Ooh, I wonder if you do this. Hold on.
Hey, Terry, okay, it won't work for me. It won't work for me, but do this, because I'm on the iPad. Do this.
The lasers, do the lasers.
Wasn't that it? What was it? Oh, was it this? Was it this? Do this. I think you have to go up. Yes, that's the one.
Oh, snap.
I thought we thought you'd like that. Shadow and Nicole and I figured that out when we were doing some Zoom practicing, and we were like, oh shit. I thought it would work on mine, but I have an old iPad, so it doesn't do it.
What was the other one?
Heart.
Oh yeah, and there's a heart. Terry, are you still there? Do a heart like this. You might not be there anymore. We'll get her to do it when he comes back. The heart's fun too. Little,
Yeah, it just
heart.
did it. Look.
Yeah. Nice. All right,
Nice.
we'll
See you in 10. It's 9:54 my time. See you at 10:04.
Okay.
Now we're going into Brian's office.
We tagged her on the
Close, yeah. Yeah, every time I say your shit, I'm like. Steal all your shit.
right.
I know, I did. You're lucky you got that.
I am lucky. In fact, I'm wearing it right now.
Michelle even took me back to go back Friday.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that night. I was like, I was gonna steal one of Jimmy's jackets.
Oh, that's funny.
I did too. And then she was like, you're gonna give it back eventually, right? Alright, I'll take it back. I'm like, it's fine.
Okay, everybody's got new things.
Ooh, what do you got?
Oh, this is,
I am sticking to not buying.
I guess that's new also.
you guys.
It was on the
Refuse to buy one.
promotion, it was like half off, they're just like, yeah, it's, new.
I signed it. I didn't tell her this.
It's okay. I wouldn't.
I didn't
Send
say
me
it.
a text.
Yeah.
Stab it.
Yeah.
We're excited this year. But I signed it and it might be that I have to give Danny $500 for craft supplies.
This is not launch already off. This is a very expensive basis if I do it. Yeah. Honestly, I like it better not smoking it very much and just puffing on like with somebody else who's not here because I actually feel it. Where if I'm puffing on a lot, I just have the craving for it, but I don't actually really feel it. I'm getting a little hesitant and stuff. This with me. Like
The sensation.
yeah, whole bottom side or whatever. Just you know what I'll do? I'm gonna buy you a little pocket dildo that you can just pull out, like one of the ones that are like really veiny. That you can just pull out.
The same way, like I like actually.
Yeah. I gotta stop. I don't have fire at all. I do whatever else that they do like that. It's sad. And there would be one group of women that had pacifiers. I was like, that is fucking.
Yeah, and then it's like a whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Did I ever tell you about whenever I lived with, my roommate?
Yeah, and they burned the whole
Well, we would put like mix in like. And it was nice, but at the same time, it was great. But one day,
Seems to just be a cool thing to do right now.
Yeah, apparently.
It's,
I couldn't tell in your voice it sounded like you were sick for a second.
Okay.
This was after, yeah. It was like after.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, this is.
Everyone's like, oh, what is that? Try it, but I don't know.
But, anyways,
So, that's.
And then, like, kind of with it, getting, like, you know, she. Alright, so. And then he. Showered out of work.
A little bit before we set up for you. I was supposed to have one this morning, but can't do it, so he's gotta wait till like the fall of February.
And I looked at it, and I was like, if he just comes down, like, towel around me, he goes, oh, fuck. And we were like, hey. So he was gonna go to work, he didn't try to get shit done, nobody was gonna work. He had like 4 table section, kind of that table section. He was like, after that, every single time that we had to make it, it's a drunk calls, right? No. We were like, the rest of the time we lived together, always, it's like, so like.
Yeah, otherwise I still keep,
So I recommend not having any signature on camera. Just the main reason for that is like they can just say that most first thing and you don't have to use it.
well, I with all the. I was just like, I did go to the primary one, I was just like.
You know what I mean, like, it would be super easy to just copy that.
You're not.
Somebody can edit this, change the price on it, paste the numbers, just as a hard thing.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Oh, no, you're not. These guys have already done their green side, they've been at Pleasant. They're waiting for me.
99.9.
I'm sending it right now.
99% of the time, that's never gonna happen.
That's weird. Yeah, JSP is about 500, she passed grades. She passed. It's opposites. Oh, maybe he's having different races that he's taking on the JSP side. I told him, if you want to bonus people in addition, you're a name. The difference though, there is all the JSPs are with under ten. The reason that we didn't want you bonusing with Diana or to say I bonus Shadow is because we didn't want there to be animosity amongst the teams. Like I don't want to be on Cody's team. Diana bonuses more, and then it gets to the point where if that happens and the JSP is out like setting an appointment or something, they might try to set it on my day off, hoping that I pass it off to like Michelle, and then I'm stuck with like, fuck, now I have to work my day off, right? So that's the reason we were trying to avoid that because the JSP. Well, the challenge is like, everything's good, JC, you're thinking, like, what happens, like, at the beginning of the year, when, I was trying to get 68, my taxes were at 2 months, and I'm like, I can't do this shit. I just can't do it. That's what we were trying. What's the number? Oh, these are for, I think, like junior leagues, not leagues, as in like leagues for appointments, like the team leaders. This is what I'm saying, like, there's one team leader, I think, is like, that's what this junior league is. So he's adding extra pay, his pay for the team leaders. I'm not sure where these sites come from, but what I'm saying is that she's not talking about leads, like point leads, she's talking about like team leaders. Additionally, we were talking about giving him a 1% bonus with job sold. So if you have whatever, 6 jobs that were selling a month or something like that, like we're saying is to give for everybody. I see. Versus 60 years. Yeah, I went through it one time. And I got the next one guy just gone to the wrong.
If anything, they'll put a face to a voice, you know what I mean?
It was just one.
Yeah.
It's
a lot harder at the.
Oh, yeah. I started smoking, I did not start smoking.
Okay, not at all. In fact, hold on real quick. I'm gonna yell in your ear for a minute. Hey, Cody, are you standing there, buddy? Cody.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, just so you know, I've got Mr. Campbell on the phone right now.
Who? Oh, Dwayne?
Yep, Dwayne. Dwayne's gonna be reaching out to you right now. He's out in Portland. He wants to go ahead and stop on by and talk to you about some changes that Provia is making, starting February the 1st. So he's gonna reach out, brother, if you'll set something up with him, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks, brother. Dwayne, he'll be waiting for you. We can go ahead and do that and we'll see what we can do. Do me a favor, when you reach out to Cody, you'll probably want to wait till probably about another 2 hours your time since we're still in this training, but I'll have everybody out within 2 hours. Okay? No, how would you know, dude? If you didn't know that in advance, you won the fucking lottery this weekend, Doc. Yeah, well, it is, and hopefully you remember everybody else when you do, bro. Yeah. Take care, my man. You too, brother. Bye-bye. Yeah, he'll be reaching out to you a little later on, Cody. So he just happened to call.
Cody, what?
Oh, I'm sorry, Terry, what?
I said he'll be out to you here in a couple hours. He literally just called me when I was on the phone with Phil.
Okay, yeah, cool, I'll watch out for it.
So
I know, yours is so much cooler. I wanna be able to do it. It sucks that I won't do it for mine.
well, it's because you gotta have cool fingers,
No.
dude.
It's because this is like a 3-year-old iPad. It just doesn't do it on this. If I was on my computer or if I was using the phone as the camera, I would do it. It just doesn't do it on this iPad for some reason.
I'm sitting
Oh
here
my God.
remembering all.
This email is so annoying, man. Every email that's coming through just keeps getting blocked. I have to like permit them all. It's annoying. You know, Terry, do you think it's worth also getting from Provia like their little like parts pieces like kit has like the cutaways of like the Aries series window and now it's like little corner cuts? We had one at some point. I don't know if that was you just Grant borrowed that from Dwayne, but I can't find it here. Do you think that's worth having?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having, to me, man, there's never wrong with having anything. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
That's true. I still want to find out if it's hidden here somewhere. I'll ask Dwayne if maybe he just like Grant borrow it for a little while to show us.
I'm one of those ones, man. If I can get my hands on crap, I keep it and I get it because you'll never know.
Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
So this week, hopefully Phil will be in. I'm hoping he'll be in by tomorrow. I'll also get him to bring in the Renewal by Anderson frame. So that way I can have that and we can go over that because I have their corner cut.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool to see.
I have RBA's corner cut. So, all right. Do we got everybody back in? Let's get everybody back and seated and let's get back to this thing real quick.
I can help the supporter to see. I think it's you can't get on because you're still sewing.
Okay, is everybody back? Are we good to go? All right. Very cool. So by now we have gone through our closing question. We got our answers that we got to get. Now it's time to go ahead and remeasure. So typically, here's what I do. It's not always going to work this way, guys. I get it. Do it when you can. Do it when you can. That's all I can tell you. When I measure from, or I inspect from inside the house. And a lot of times what I'll do is then I'll measure from the outside. The reason why I measure from the outside is it gives me a chance to have the customer with me to be able to inspect things on the outside to make sure there's not something funny there. Okay. A good example I'll give you is Phil. Phil knows better. He should be measuring from the outside when he can. He did not. So when we went out, when the measure tech went out to go measure his job, there was a row of bushes and shit in the backyard that was literally, all this hedge was about 15 feet long, butted right up against the house. And the measure tech then had to have a conversation with the customer that they needed to go ahead and cut back that shrub so we can go ahead and get back to it. Caused a different kind of problem because Phil didn't cover that when he was out there. And of course the customer is, well, nobody told me that. If I would have known that, then I would have, you know, went a different way, because, you know, I've been growing this stuff since for the last 55 years and all this other stupid crap, all because he didn't go outside. So to me, you measure from the outside when you can, take the customer with you. If it's at night or if it's inclement weather or something like that, I get it. Then measure from the inside, do the best that you can to look through the window to make sure that there's something funny that's there, that's not there, that you can address with the customer if it is there. Shrubbery. Guys, if there's rose bushes, if there's shrubs, pyracantha bushes, whatever, our installers need 1.5 to 2 feet to be able to get back behind there to be able to get the window in, okay? Even if we're installing the window from the inside going out, we still have to be able to get out there to be able to seal the window and do the things on the outside that we need to do. So we need the room. So a customer may have to sit there and cut some of that shrub back for us to be able to get back there. We're not the only company. Every single window company is going to ask for it anyway, because we all have to be able to get back there. Or maybe it's just a single rose bush or two that we can put some tarp over it, tie a rope around it, and then kind of pull it back a little bit so our guys can get back behind it. A brick house, maybe some of these sided houses with rotted wood around it, to be able to point out, hey, look, this is messed up. We don't cover this kind of stuff here, okay? And if we do, we're going to have to charge accordingly for it, all right? So getting outside when you can is certainly something that we have to do. The important thing is we have to take the customer with us. While the customer is with us, get them to take part, okay? The more that they participate, the more ownership they take of things, okay? If it's a married couple, what I typically do is I usually get my clipboard with a measure sheet on there, and then I walk the customer through it. You know, here's how we're gonna number. What room is this? Write that down for me. Do me a favor. What are we gonna put here? Do you want a double hung? Do you want a picture window? What kind of window do you want? What color do you want? And walk them through how to fill that out and check each box. After 1 or 2 windows, they'll know what to do after that, you know? And then you just kind of keep an eye on things, but help them, have them help you, okay? At the same time, if you're building things at some point in time, when we get this Vendo thing or whatever it is that we're supposed to be getting, we're going to have to be putting measurements in our iPad at some point in time anyway. So while they're writing stuff down, we can start entering stuff in our iPad. So it takes less time when we go to sit down to be able to do this stuff, because the longer it takes for us with the customer having to watch and wait, the more buying temperature drops anyway. So get them to help. Get the husband to sit there on bigger windows to hold one end of the measuring tape, and you get to the other end, and then take 3 measurements. Is it taking longer? Yes. But we're telling everybody that all of our windows are all custom built, handmade, computer fitted. That's what I tell everybody. So custom windows means we want to walk up and literally, let's make this show. You know, this is the one thing about Michael Foyt I would agree with. You got to be an actor here. We have to put on a show when we're here. So when I'm measuring windows, I measure 3 spots on the width, the bottom, the middle, and as high as up as my little ass can reach. And I do the same thing on the from side to side as well. Bottom, middle, side, left, middle, right. and then come up with the smallest measurement, and that's the measurement that I put. But don't use round numbers, don't use 48 inches. If the damn thing is 47 3/4, then put 47 3/4. Have them write that down. You know what, ma'am? I've got this. We're going to go ahead and use 35 3/8. So put 35 3/8 there. Okay. Same thing on the height, 59 1/4. So make that 59 1/4. Again, that makes it look like we're custom building. One of my big frustrations with salesmen is the king shit salesman that wants to stand there and act like how much they actually know. Folks, I can tell you now, I've been doing this for so long. That's a 48 by 72 inch window. Watch this. See, 48, 72. See, I told you I've been doing this a long time. That's bullcrap. That cheapens the product up. That cheapens you. That cheapens us as a company. We want to let them know that we are truly custom building, not like the measurements that other companies took when they came out there and they did that very thing there, or they just sat there and said, yep, 36 by 36. Get away from that. Put on a show here for a minute. Okay. It doesn't matter if you have another appointment, right? Love the one you're with. You have a willing and participating audience. Then play this out. The only place we have to be is where we're at right now. So let's do all the things that we got to do, because that might be something that causes that job to sell. They may be thinking, the last 3 companies that came out there, they didn't do that. All they did is slap a measuring tape up real quick and walk away. Or they measured one and they go, yep, all 3 of these are the same. We're telling everybody that no 2 openings are alike. So to turn around and say, yep, all 4 of these windows are the same, takes that message away. That cheapens our product. Okay, that cheapens our product. So that's what I do when I'm measuring. Take the customers with you when you can, because some people you're not going to be able to get up out of that chair because they physically can't do it, or whatever it may be. But where we can, we have to make sure that we do. Okay, we have to make sure. And then while we're there, then let's start putting everything together. What color do we want? We want this, we want that, we want this, we want that. Then we can make our suggestions there at the same time. They got 2 mold units. Maybe we turn that into a picture window instead of 2 double hungs. Cuts back on cost, make sure the window is not so busy. Same thing with Colonial Grids. They have Colonial Grids now. Folks, let me ask you a question. You've got grids now. Do you want to put grids back in? I don't know. A lot of time what a customer will ask is, what do you think? Well, here are what my thoughts are, folks. Number one, nobody usually likes the way grids look like from the inside looking out. It's more for curb appeal. My challenge is from the inside, I don't like looking around it, and I think it makes it look busy. So because of that, I prefer more of a clear area. I think it's a lot cleaner that way. So this is what I would personally do. Or go in the other direction if that's what you want to do. But again, get in here and let's help, because we're supposed to be the experts. We are the design consultants, the senior sales partner, the factory rep, whatever you want to call us. But in the end, what we're supposed to be is the expert. So let's go out there and act like experts when we get out there and we start measuring. Okay. Obviously, 2-story houses, we have to go upstairs from the inside, and that's the only thing we can do. From time to time, a customer is going to sit there and tell you, well, why does somebody have to come out and remeasure the way you took accurate measurements? Well, folks, because we're a lot like NASA, if you want to call it that. We're going to make sure that somebody checks me, because that doesn't mean I didn't make a mistake. So we're going to get somebody else out here to further walk the job to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because that person is your last line of defense to make sure that this product comes in with no challenges and that we've covered all of our bases. Which for the amount of money you're going to spend, clearly that's what you want, right? They'll say yes every single time. Every time they'll say yes. Okay. So when it comes to measuring, that's what I do. But I never leave a customer. And if there are a couple, you have to get at least one of them out of that chair. Do not let them stay there while you're gone, and let them start conspiring against you. So separate the two, you know, just like the cops do. Okay. Just like the cops do. When police show up because of some domestic challenge out there, the first thing we used to do is you separate both parties right away immediately. So as they can't sit there and fight against each other or conspire with one another. So you eliminate it by moving them away from one another. If that's what you have to do here because you can't get them both, then get one. But do not let them sit there and conspire against you. Don't do that. So get rid of one of them at least and take one with you. Okay. Any questions about measuring at all? Anything when it comes to measuring? Yes. Diana had her hand up. What's up, D?
So, I was curious about, you're saying measuring from the outside. Is there value in like an evening appointment, doing a quick walk around the house just to get an idea before you even do that measure, just to like see if there's any things that you need to worry about?
You could. I mean, I carry a little flashlight in my bag, is what I do. So I walk around with a little flashlight outside, and at some point in time, nighttime or not, I always tell the customer, "Hey, look, folks, I got to get out here and take a walk out here and take a look at some things. If you can do me a favor, sir, in case I can point some stuff out, if you can go ahead and follow me." I'll grab the husband at that point, especially if it's at night, especially here in Arizona, because at night here, depending on where you live, you know, we got a lot of coyotes and a lot of bobcats and rattlesnakes and shit like that out here. I mean, we have a lot. So I'll typically take the fellow with me, you know. But I want to walk through that to make sure that there's nothing weird outside, you know. The other thing too, and I don't know if you guys see this where you're at. I know most cities you don't see this a lot, but I see it a lot here. And I saw it a lot in Dallas as well. In those places there's a lot of windows in people's closets, especially the master bedrooms. Okay. A lot of times when you're walking and inspecting on the inside, unless you ask about a closet, you typically will miss a window. But when you go outside, from what you counted on the inside, you'll then be able to go outside and make the same count and see if you come up with a different count. So the best example I can give you is I sold a job one time to the guy. It's funny because it's a golfer's name. The guy's name was Walter Hagen, and he was in Oro Valley. I did everything from the inside because it was raining up a storm, and I missed two windows in two bedrooms. Both of those bedrooms happened to be in the front of the house. After I sold the job, I was supposed to be doing every window on the house. As I drove away, I happened to turn back and look, and I know there was 9 windows in the front of the house, and I could see right away there was more than 9. I go, "Whoa, what the fuck?" So I stopped and I started counting. I said, "Shit, I missed 2 windows somehow." So I went back to the house to talk to the customer and say, "Look, I think we missed something here. You were supposed to have 9 windows, and now I'm counting 11 as I pulled away." And there was the 2 closet windows. Would have caused a problem because since they were in the front of the house, those 2 windows wouldn't have matched anything else that we did. I was able to catch that. The problem is after you leave and it sits on everybody's mind, that particular customer comes back and said, no. We were supposed to be doing every window on the house. And if he missed it, that's your fault. But I know we counted that. You get that kind of stuff. So you can make that second count from the outside to make sure you don't miss something like that. I don't know if your guys' markets have that, but I know Dallas and Arizona have a lot of that here. We have a lot of windows and closets here, a lot. Okay. So that's another advantage of going outside. The other thing too is paying attention to roofs that have that terracotta tile and stuff like that on there. That's a little problem that we're going to have to discuss with somebody there, because standing on that stuff, those tiles are going to break. So we've got to be able to talk to our customer and let them know, hey, look, we have some challenges here, as does anybody else. This may be one, depending on where the windows are at, where we may have to rent a cherry picker to be able to put somebody on a cherry picker to go over that, to be able to take that window in and out so we don't mess up tile. Okay. So it's just it's a good thing to get outside and get used to looking outside so we can find things out there that we can make our measure techs aware of and make the customer aware of that we need to talk to them about. in case there are any challenges when the install starts. Okay. Again, we assume that our measure tech will catch it. But assumption is the mother of all evil, right? So we can't make that assumption. So we've got to make sure for ourselves as well that there are no problems here. Okay. What was your question, Cody?
So there's kind of two questions. So if we're measuring, say, from the outside, it's really easy to measure from the frame edge to the frame edge. But if you're measuring from the inside, obviously on the vast majority of the homes that we're measuring, part of that frame is buried behind, the trim itself. So when you're measuring, are you measuring from the trim to the trim and taking that number, 47 3/4 or whatever it might be, or are you accounting for whatever's buried back there?
Yeah. So if I wanted to be technical, if I'm measuring from the inside, whatever measurement I'm going to use, I add 1/2 inch. Okay. You can add whatever number you're going to do because the measurement you're giving to the customer to write down, we just want them to see that, because we already know that when we're pricing, that measurement really doesn't matter unless it takes it over 100 UI. And for me, I always bump up to the nearest round number when I'm pricing to make sure I'm pricing accordingly, so as I don't sit there and shortcut something is what I do.
Makes sense. And then the other question is, what are your thoughts on, like, if you can't do it from the outside at all, obviously, but if you are measuring primarily from the inside, what are your thoughts on the actual tape measure versus like a laser tape measure?
So my only problem with the laser tape measures is two things. Three things. One, it's in my hands, which makes it technology, which means there's going to be a problem because technology knows I have a problem with it, first off. The second challenge that I have with digital tape measures that way is what I've noticed on some of these is when the batteries start to go down a little bit, their measurements, they get way off. So I just want to make sure that I don't mess something up. And the third thing is I don't see nothing wrong with it as long as you can trust what you have and it works good.
And they do have some
So-
cool ones where it's like an actual tape measure, there's a laser in there, so you can do whatever makes sense or whatever is easy. You can almost double check it, like, hey, that could be part of the show too, those are kind of slick. You pull a tape measure, this is what I see, let me do a double check, the laser, yep, all right, verified, write it down.
Yep. You could, like I said, whatever it is you want to make the show look better, buddy, whatever you want to do to make that show look better. My biggest challenge, like I said, with the laser thing is when the batteries start to go down on them, the measurements get weird.
Sounds good.
So what other questions about measuring, guys? Anything? Okay. Again, last time I'll mention this. When measuring, we have to pay attention to whatever challenges may be there. Brick house. A brick house is a biggie. A lot of times with brick houses, you have to look at the brick on the outside, especially on the sill, and usually on the sides, where you can see some brick is loose. Go ahead and wiggle on that for a minute and see. If it is, we want to let the customer know that, hey, look, in the course of collapsing this window and taking it out, this brick may sit there and come out. Just so you know, we'll do the best we can to put it back, but we can't match this up. We're not going to be able to do anything. It's already damaged now. Okay. And because you saw that, have the customer make a note on the measure sheet. This way, when you're putting the deal together, you can put in there and make a note, customer is aware of the brick on line number 10 is damaged and may fall out during installation. Customer is okay with that. This way it's documented there so somebody can't try to hold our feet to the fire later. Okay.
Hey, Terry.
Yeah.
When in Dallas, we have a lot of brick, and periodically, sometimes we get like a little patch of like LP or hardy board siding, like in just a little pocket that's not necessarily visible all the time. Or we end up with, random little vinyl patches in obscure corners, that type of thing. It's kind of a weird setup the way they do it. But what kind of things do we have to look out for in terms of those scenarios? Because they just don't happen often enough to really, even after the time that I've been here, it's like we don't really have enough scenarios that we run into, but the ones that I have run into have been problematic. In terms of like, what do we charge for? What do we look for? That kind of thing. I'm just
Well,
curious.
So here's the thing. I mean, I will sit there and I'll say this, Mark, okay, and this is going to sound a little cold, okay? For some of this stuff that we don't hardly run into, but it does come up, and when it does come up, it's problematic. A large part of that is because we didn't address it when we were there as the salespeople. Yes, the measure tech should have, bro. I get it. Okay, there's always going to be an argument that the measure tech. So I found out something here today or the other day that I was very, very, very shocked by. That I know Cody and some of the MSPs, I believe, were on that phone call when I was told that the only thing that the measure tech is supposed to be doing is to measure and then leave. They don't walk the job. They don't verify the job. They don't do any of that shit. Floored the shit out of me. I was shocked. I actually said that out loud and was told by Brett, well, I don't understand why you're floored by that. You knew that. No, I didn't, that it was like that. You were on that call too, weren't you, Cody? Cam?
Yeah, that was the Portland ops call we were on.
Okay, that was a Portland ops call we were on. Okay. So because we know that they do, today they don't do that. They will be doing it here pretty soon when I redo that. And the only thing I'm waiting for, just so you guys know, is there's going to be a different process when it comes to how we process our paperwork and things get measured and crap like that, and what the measure techs are supposed to be doing out there. The only thing I'm waiting for now is for this migration to fully be done and all the kinks be worked out. The moment's that done, there is a plan for it that I'll immediately implement. That some of these IMs and OAs and all are already waiting for me on. Okay, they are. I think Bob Tatum brought that up to Kate the other day because Kate told me about that this morning. Okay, we got to get out there, man, and one of two things has to happen. Either number one, if it's something that's going to get damaged that we can replace, then we have to make sure that we're charging accordingly for it. So how much do you charge? You overcharge. $400 a window, $500 a window if that's what you got to do. $300 a window. It just depends. If you're not sure, you take a picture right away and you send it to me right away. Tell me, hey, Terry, I'm in the house. I need you to look at this. If you guys have FaceTime, I would prefer that when you're in a house with stuff and there's something that's funny, I would prefer, if you're not 100% sure, if you go to your MSP first. If your MSP doesn't have the answer, then come to me. I would prefer that when you're in the house doing that you FaceTime me. Okay? So as I can walk you through what I want. The problem with pictures is pictures are worth 1,000 words, yes. But sometimes I need to be worth 1,001. Okay? And what I need you to be able to do is put a measuring tape here or put a measuring tape there, see how much thickness is here, see how wide it is there. So I can talk you through that. So then I can tell you, okay, you know what? Yep, I got that. And then we'll discuss price when we're not on FaceTime. Once we're done and I have it, I'll tell you, okay, I got it. Give me a second. That means hang up and then call me back so I can give you pricing when you're not on FaceTime. Because the problem with FaceTime is it puts you on speaker. And I don't need the customer hearing what I might have to say. Okay. So we just have to do that. You know, you get some of these windows that's got T111 or masonite paneling on the outside, and some of these will have the wood trim that's around it. Okay. In theory, we can take that window out without damaging that. In theory, but it doesn't always work that way. So our best bet is to charge for it just to replace it. Okay. If you're not sure of what the price should be, whatever price you have in your pricing tool, add more to it. Look, you guys are pitching in a different way now. None of you here should be worried about price anymore. Okay. Most everybody here is starting to sell now with 35 or with 40 and 42 and 43 and 45% margins now. So adding an extra 50, 60, 70, $100 to a job per window rather shouldn't be squat for you guys now. It just shouldn't be. That's only going to raise your price $600, $700, $800 on a 10 window job. Well, FYI, if you can't sell it for 9,200, 10,000, you're not going to sell it for 92 either. Just so you know. So we just have to walk it, buddy. And if you're not sure of what to charge, but my typical thing on little thing is $100 a window. You know, if you throw $100 a window at something, chances are you're gonna be good on most stuff. If you're questioning whether $100 is enough, then you already know the answer. It's not. Then charge 150 or 200. When you have to question, are you charging enough? Then you probably already know the answer to it. The answer is you're probably not charging enough. So just add a little more skeena to it. That's all, buddy. That's all. Does that answer, Mark? Does that help? It's hard for me to tell
That's
you
fine.
exactly because the scenario is
Yeah.
going to change based on what you have. Okay. The scenario is going to change. What I have found is 100 to 150 bucks per window for some weird work that's normally that we may have to do is probably sufficient, or to have the conversation that, hey, look, in the course of taking this out, if this gets damaged, we're not going to be responsible for this. Are you okay with that? If a customer says, no, I'm not okay with it, then charge accordingly for it and dig in and find out what we should charge. That's when we start making phone calls. In that case there, Mark, just give me a call right away. Me, you'll always be able to get a hold of. Your installation manager, you may not, but me, you will. And it's simple. You shoot me a text saying, I'm in a house, I need your help, answer the fucking phone. I will always answer when I know you're stuck. I will always answer when you're in a house, always. No meeting that I'm a part of is more important than you guys in a house. Okay. What else, guys, as far as measuring goes? All right, very cool. So we've done our measure. Next thing now, it's time to pre-close. So pre-close. The pre-close has been recorded once, but I'll go back over that with you again. Pre-closing is really very simple. It's just a matter of memorizing this thing here. So Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock, we've talked about a lot of things today while I was here. Okay. Obviously, replacing your windows is something you're going to do someday because that's what you told me earlier. Is that correct? Yes. Great. I would imagine then the only thing that's keeping us apart is going to be the money. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So if I could do 3 things for you today while I was here, bless you. Number 1, if I can show you a price that you believe to be a fair and an honest price, fair and honest for the type of product you're going to receive, the type of installation that goes with that, and the warranty and the service that goes along with that. At the same time, too, if I could fit a payment in your budget that doesn't take bread and butter off the table, you know, something that's not going to put you in the window poorhouse like we talked about earlier. And last, if I can go ahead and show you a tremendous savings by doing something sooner rather than later, would there be any reason other than price or payment why we can't get together on this partnership today while I was here? In other words, you're not going to sit there and tell me you can't do this today because your cat's getting ready to give birth to parakeets. You're not going to say that, are you? Okay. I verbatim say that every single solitary time without fail. I say that every single solitary time. If you don't want to throw in the cats getting birth to parakeets, that's up to you. I can tell you now in Albuquerque, last company, they use cats having puppies. But I've said that for years. You can say it if you want to. It'll make it funny. But that's what I'm looking for, is for somebody to laugh and go, no, no, no. If it's that, then we're good. That's what I'm looking for. The other thing that I'm looking for is as many objections as I can possibly get as to why a decision can't be made today, so I can overcome the objection before I present the price. Bless you, Mark. So I can overcome the objection before I present the price. Okay. It's important here that we get as many objections out of the way before we present price. At this point, the customer knows they're this close to getting a price. So we all advantage us so far. It's all advantage for us. The moment we put that price and payment in front of a customer's hands, though, and in front of their eyes, all advantage customer at that point in time, they can tell us to pound sand because they got what they want. So I don't want them concentrating on excuses why they can't buy. I need them concentrating on the price and the payment. So we have to get as much objections out of the way. So what are the standard objections? And I'm talking to my current SSPs now and to former window reps, you know, what are the number 1 objections that you would get normally as to why somebody would sit there and say, I can't buy today because of this reason? What would those reasons be? Shout them out when you know them.
I have to look into my budget. I have to talk to my real estate agent.
Research.
I already have scheduled some other quotes that are gonna come out.
I have to talk to my
Well,
financial advisor.
I have to talk to my contractor. Or like, for a different project, corresponds.
Yeah, there's another project, you get that a lot where somebody's like, well, hey, the roof's leaking, I need to get my roof bid back to see if I can take on the windows as well.
What else?
I don't make one-day decisions.
We roll price. These are the excuses, asking we roll price.
What else?
I like to sleep on it.
We have to pray on it. Ooh, yeah, that's seriously.
Research.
We get that quite a bit in Dallas.
What else?
I need to research.
Could be, yeah, kind of going back to Ari's research, it could be like, hey, I trust everything you say, but I always like to just do my due diligence and just verify everything that you said myself.
Research, shop, due diligence. Yep. What else? Okay.
I'm afraid of overextending myself.
You're afraid of
Straight
overextending
out of my
yourself.
savings account. I have expenses coming up. I helped my daughter buy her car. Whatever.
Health concerns.
Yeah.
Whether that means they might have medical bills coming up or be dead in 2 months. I'm putting it like,
Yeah,
like I wanna do it, but honestly, I have to see if my cancer's a remission. If it is, then I'm down. If it's not, there's no point. That's one.
Okay, this will about cover most of them. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's chop off a couple of these that I would sit there and say is kind of bullshit a little bit. And so what do I mean by a couple of these? So number one, let's look at pray on it for a minute. Let's start there. Okay. So look, there's several ways to go ahead and handle the praying bit. Once upon a time, I used to sit there and tell a customer, then fuck it, I'll pray with them. You know, sit there and hold hands. Did God sit there and tell you the same thing he told me? Okay, look, I'm being dead serious here. Once upon a time, if a customer said, well, this is something that we need to pray on, I'd say, fantastic, I would agree. So let's go ahead and pray. And I would put my hands out there to hold hands with them. And if they would actually do it, I would sit there and stay silent. And after a few minutes or a few seconds or whatever, I'd look up and say, did he tell you the same thing he told me? I actually used to say that. Okay. Now, over the years, I've become a little bit different with it. If a customer hits me with pray on it, I light them up, to be honest with you. I light them up. I light them up. I don't care how religious you are. And if that offends anybody on this phone call, I also don't care. Because to sit there and use praying to buy windows is blasphemous as all get out. That's blasphemous as hell. Okay. I can assure you, with all the challenges God has in this world and all the help that people make or need, I don't think he's listening out as to whether he should be given good advice, whether somebody should buy fucking windows or not. I don't like that, and I think it's blasphemous as hell for a customer to use that as an excuse. And I will call them out on it. Now, you do what you want. You can either let it go, or you can sit there and say you want to pray with them and then see if God told them the same thing that he told you. Or you can call them out. I call them out, and I tell the customer flat out, you know what, folks? I do respect the fact that you're a religious person, and I get that. But I'll also sit there and say that's blasphemous as hell too, though. Okay, that's like saying that you have to pray before you go to a grocery store to see what the Lord says, or before you put gas in your car, before you buy a car, or before you buy a house, or anything like that. I've read the Bible just like other people have too, and nowhere, and I mean nowhere, does it remotely close come to sitting there saying you should sit there and start doing this in case you want to buy windows. I think it's blasphemous, and I call a customer out, just so you know. I think this is the biggest bullshit thing on this list for somebody to use as an excuse. So the question here is, what kind of stones do you guys have and how you want to handle it? Do you want to call them out, or do you want to sit there and let them pray it out, or do you want to pray with them? That's up to you, and I'm not going to tell you what to do here. I can only tell you what I would do. But I believe that's blasphemous as all get out, for sure. Even in a place like Salt Lake City, when you got all the Mormons running around there, I don't care. I would still have something to say about that. Okay? Because that is a blasphemous thing to use that as an excuse and to use the Lord's that way so you don't have to make a decision. That's a poor excuse. Because those same, do what?
Go ahead. Go ahead, my bad.
Because those same people right there are not praying before they go to a movie. They're not praying before they take a trip as to whether they should take one or not, or before they buy a car or anything else. They're not doing that. They're using that as an excuse because that's one of the hardest ones to overcome without offending anybody. My goal when they do it is I offend them. So I will not mix any words about that. I will call them out because I believe that to be blasphemous as hell, to use that as an excuse that way. Now, if that person I'm talking to prays for all decisions, then that's a different story. But you and I both know, and all of us know, that's not what happens. Even a preacher who does that for a living doesn't do that. And I've sold enough of those to know that, as some of you on this phone call have done also. So how you want to handle that is up to you. Those are the three options that I would sit there and see. Let them do it, walk away, pray with them if you want, or call them out. I choose to call them out. So I can't give you a right answer here, guys. Okay, I can't give you a right answer here.
What about
So-
for us? I feel like that kind of goes with, I don't make one day decisions. I want to sleep on it. I feel like those are like kind of go hand in.
Well, no, that's a little bit different. Okay. This is an excuse to use the Lord's name to be able to not make a decision. That doesn't mean what they want to do is sleep on it or they don't make a one-day decision. This usually is bullshit here. This is usually bullcrap. This is usually bullcrap because you've done a good enough job and a great job and a masterful presentation that they don't know what else to say other than that. Because that's the best that they've got because you've shut everything else down. However, for the person that wants to sleep on it and for the person that doesn't make a one-day decision, I'll play this out with you, Jimmy, since you're the one that brought it up. That was you, Jimmy, that said that, right, buddy? No, who said that? I'm so sorry, Jimmy. I'm sorry. Cameron, that was you. Sorry about that. I got you guys on 5 screens, so everybody looks that tall. So this is the only time I'm going to be in front of all of you where I'm actually taller than all of you. So I'm sorry about that, Jay. Cameron, so your question was, let's handle the one-day decision for a minute, okay? So I've presented a price to you, Cameron, and you're telling me that you don't make a one-day decision, so you need to sleep on it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so Cameron, let me ask you a question, sir. All right, let me see if I get this correct. What you're telling me is that you really don't make one-day decisions, so what you want to do is go ahead and sleep on this. Am I reading that right, sir? Am I understanding what you said?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Let me put it to you a different way. If I could do all 15 windows on your house for $25 a month, at a very, very low interest rate that would probably be lower than a HELOC that you can get from your own bank. Would you do it for $25 a month, sir, with zero money down?
I mean, that does sound way more attractive, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds more attractive, but the question would be, would you actually do it for that?
$25 a month,
Yep,
low interest rate,
yep.
yes.
Okay, so here's what we now know then, Cameron. Number one, we know that you'll make a one-day decision. We just have to make the money work, which is why I was telling you earlier, if we can make a fair and honest price and fit a payment in your budget that doesn't take bread and butter off the table, could we move forward? It does sound like that we can go ahead and do that. So what we do know is you will make a one-day decision. Number two, sir, keep in mind, no is a one-day decision also. It's just not a yes one-day decision. What we have to figure out is how to make that a yes one-day decision so it makes sense for you and your budget. Would you agree with that, sir?
Yes.
That's how I overcome the one-day decision. Guys, keep in mind, no is a one-day decision also. It's just not a yes one-day decision. But no is a one-day decision. In this case here, we have to break this down to a ridiculous number to see if we can get the customer to move on it. Okay, sir, if I could do this for $25 a month or $30 a month at a very, very, very low interest rate, so with zero money down, would we be able to go ahead and partner on this today? Yes. Okay, then here's what we now know. Number one, you will in fact make a one-day decision as long as we can make the money and everything makes sense, which is what I was saying earlier. Fair and honest price, payment in your budget that doesn't take bread and butter off the table, save you a bunch of money, we can move forward. Number two, keep in mind too, though, no is a one-day decision also, sir. It's just not a yes one-day decision, that's all. All right.
What if they say though, well, like, you know, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I need tonight to think on it, and I will give you a call tomorrow at noon, and I'll have an answer for you then.
That would be awesome. So let me ask you a question, sir. So something you need to go ahead and think about. So I would imagine, sir, if you had a question about the law, you would probably talk to a cop or a lawyer or a judge or somebody like that. Is that correct, Cody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And if you had a question about a roof or your plumbing, you probably talk to a roofer or a plumber, correct?
Yep.
So if there are things that you need to sit there and think about this, then why not talk to the expert who's here? Or is what you're trying to say is this is a little more money than you were prepared to spend at the very moment? Which one is it, sir? So I can help. Think out loud so I know how to help, sir.
I guess it's not so much that the money's the issue. I've just made a couple gunshot, sign on the spot decisions in the past, and it really burnt me. So the money's not really the issue. You've been great. Honestly, I'm gonna cancel the other quotes that I got. I'm probably either working with you or not, but I just, I made a promise to myself after the last time I got fucked in the ass with making that gunshot choice. I won't do it again. So, I mean, I'm happy to work with you guys if you'll give me the night or, a couple days to think about it. But if you need an answer right now, then the answer is no.
Well, here's what I would say, sir. I certainly don't need an answer right now. However, here's where the challenge is, though, right? I mean, there are repercussions for all decisions that we make. Okay. In this case here, the challenge is this is the price that we're at right now. This is what I told you would be later. I can't promise you that I'm going to be able to come back at this. That I can't do because of all the things that we talked about earlier. So I can't do that. So the question on the table I would sit there and ask you is, let's assume we go ahead and we take these next 48 hours or noon tomorrow, and God willing, and the creek don't rise when we decide to go ahead and move forward with this, this price happens to change a little bit. At this point in time, the question on the table is, are you going to be okay with that?
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I want to pay the price you're showing me right now, but I'm still not willing to make the decision. So if I call you tomorrow and you'll do it for the price today, then, I'll do it. But if it's more, then I just won't do windows right now. I mean, you guys knocked on my door. I didn't call you and have you guys come out. I wasn't thinking about windows. So, I appreciate the time and everything, but I just, just not willing to compromise, the commitment I made to myself. And if you can't give me, 48 hours to think about it, I'm not sure if you are the company I want to work with. I'm not sure you're the company you said you were when you talked about the company.
And I understand why you would sit there and feel that way, sir, and I don't blame you for it if we were to come back and do that. But at the same time too, sir, you know, when you went to Lowe's or you went to Fry's and eggs were half off on a Monday and you went back on Tuesday and they weren't half off, you certainly didn't tell Fry's that if they can't sell it to you for there, then you're going to lose their business. And maybe that's not the grocery store you should be shopping at, are you? I can't control what that price is and what the sale price is at that moment, sir. What you're asking me to do is something that is beyond my control, or to have the company sit there and change what they do. We don't want you to feel bad or uncomfortable with anything. We don't want you to do that. But in the end, sir, in order to go ahead and cut back on multiple visits and things like that, that drives the cost up. Part of the reason why we're able to keep a cost in front of you the way we are is because of the way we do go to market and the way we do business. It's not going to be for everybody else, sir. And it may not be for you, but I hope that it is. And I also get you to understand that, sir, we're not trying to strong arm you here. But at the same time, too, sir, that sell price is what the sell price is at that moment. Doesn't make us a bad company because we're unable to come back. Just like it doesn't make anywhere else that you go that doesn't have the sale going on when you go back. That doesn't make them bad either. Okay. But at the same time, too, as cold as this is going to sound, sir, we also can't get held hostage either. And that's not what we want. That's not what we want for either one of us. So the question on the table would be, if you feel comfortable with everything, other than the one-day decision that you may or may not have to make, the product works, it says this is what you want, you're going to cancel everything anyway. Everything is as you say that it is. The only thing that would go ahead and keep us apart then would be an agreement you made with yourself that doesn't necessarily mean that that agreement's the good one right now, though. So I'm sorry you feel that way, sir. But at the same time, too, though, we also can't get held hostage that way, which is what you're doing now at this point in time. So where would that put us then, sir? Where does that put us?
Yeah, no, that's good.
You know, will you get some people that say what Cody says? Absolutely, that'll come up. And we're going to have that tough conversation. Okay. But at the same time, too, guys, look, I've never agreed with B-backs. I don't like them. I think when you give a person a price and then they call you back a week or 2 weeks or 3 days later, or whatever, and then you go back to get that, I don't agree that you're writing business. I believe that that takes business away from us because we're replacing business with business. We're not adding to it. And you're not making any more money on it, even though you're going back for a second time. So all that bravado that everybody in here has all said at one point in time or another, that my time is worth something, all that bullshit goes away the moment you agree to that kind of stuff and keep going back. What happened to my time is worth something? What happened to that? What happened to that? Okay. So to me, you know, again, that person that's going to sit there and tell me that, you know, if this is what you're, you know, if you can't do this and you're not the company for me, maybe you're not. Wow, that's strong to say. Like I said, Cody out there in Portland, you're right across the street from Safeway. So if sodas were buy 3 and get 1 for $1 and they go back to not being that way, I guess Safeway must not be for us because they've decided to change their price in 24 hours. Everything's got a sale price to it, guys. Everything does, including ours. Why do we keep our prices down? Well, we choose to go to market the way we do. That's one conversation we can have with the customer. The other thing, too, is to cut back on multiple visits so we don't have to continue to sit there and keep going back. Sometimes we have to make the customer understand that the customer lives in their world. We live in everybody's world, though. We live in all of theirs. Having to sit there and go back to 8, 9, 10, 15 people a month, that takes away from our appointment times. That takes away from the people we're supposed to be able to go out and see. That takes away from all of that, too. And our time is supposed to be worth something. So that's basically the kind of conversation in this case here, Cody, when something like that were to come up, I would have. But I would let the customer know at some point in time, look, you know, at the same time, you don't like this, but we don't like being feel like we're being held hostage either. Okay. The only thing that I would have done differently that I didn't do this time is I would sit there and ask you, so sir, let me ask you a question. So if we can't come back at this price, you're telling me you're not going to be able to do business? Or do you think I can come back and what I'm telling you is a lie just to get you to sit there and say yes today? Which one is it? Typically what they'll say is, well, I know you can come back at that price. I know you can. Get the commitment from them that that's what they think. Get it from them. That's the commitment you want. Get that out of them. Do you believe that I can actually come back no matter what I tell you? Is that what you're saying? The moment that they say that, all advantage us. As soon as a customer says that, all advantage us. All advantage. Because Mark, if you were to sit there and tell me, well, Terry, I know you can come back at this price in 3 days. I know you can. Well, Mark, let me ask you a question then, sir. Let's forget about the window price for a second. Mr. Plessis, I've got to ask, if you had a friend of yours that lied to you all the time, would that person remain your friend?
No,
Not at all, for sure.
probably not. No.
And if you were dealing with a company that knowingly lied, you caught them in a lie, would you deal with that company?
Probably not.
Probably not, or not.
No.
Okay. Are you 100% sure of that?
Yes.
Okay. So here's what we now know then, sir. Even if you call me back in 3 days and I can come back at this price when I'm telling you I can't, then at that moment in time, you're going to know I lied. In which case, you're not going to do business with a company that lies because you just told me that. And the only way that you would, sir, is if you yourself is not being truthful and honest and being sincere with me. And I don't get the impression, sir, that you're the type of person that would sit there and lie. I don't get that. Or am I wrong with that?
Oh, I'm a liar.
Okay. Well, in this case here, then, sir, you don't need our windows because you're just a piece of shit, pal. So at this point in time, it's all advantage us. All we've got to do is get the commitment from them. Do they believe we can come back at that same price after we're saying we cannot, or that we cannot guarantee it? Every customer believes, and the reason why they stand on the things that Cody just said now is because they believe that we can come back at that price, so they don't care. So we've got to get them out. We got to get out of them. Is that what they believe? The moment they say, yes, I know you can, then we can have that conversation right there. And that makes it very difficult for a customer to get out of that conversation. Very difficult. You get the commitments from them first and then hit them with that. Then this has to be true, because even if I can come back at this price, even if I could, you're not going to do business with me anyway, Mr. Plessier, because you just told me you wouldn't deal with a company that lied. And the only way you would do that, sir, is if you yourself are not telling me the truth now. And I don't get the impression that you're the type of person that lies, sir. I just don't. If that's the case here, sir, am I wrong? I mean, you tell me. What's he going to say? Yes, they'll always say no. So that being said, then where does that put us now? Because I cannot get guaranteed to come back at this. And what I also know is you're not going to pay more money later when you could have saved it today. Nobody does that. So where does that put us now? What position are we now going to be in?
What if they ask why? So I get it, and I appreciate that, Terry. That makes a lot of sense, but let me ask you this: why can't you come back and do it in 3 days?
Well, sir, here, I apologize for the misunderstanding, sir. We can come back in 3 days. Hell, sir, I can come back in 23 days if that's what you want. The challenge is, though, sir, what I can't do is come back at this.
No, I get that.
Is what I
That's
can't
I'm asking. Why can't you come back at that price you showed me today?
Part of that reason why, sir, is what you and I talked about earlier, right? One of the things that we talked about is, everybody's time is worth something. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. The challenge here, sir, is coming back on multiple visits. That's more time. Coming back to multiple visits also keeps us from seeing other people as well. And what happens is when these people don't get seen right away when they want to be seen, they end up sitting there calling a different company, and we lose out on that business because of the multiple visits that we have to make. The challenge here is, sir, and I know this is you and I get it. You live in your world only, but unfortunately for us, with all the people that we have in our office, we hear this coming from folks like yourself, sir, 8, 9, 10 times a month each, all month long. If we have to keep going back for stuff like that, we would never be able to grow this business. And if we can't grow this business, we're not going to be here to service you when you need it. God willing, and the creek don't rise, you never will. But that's the challenge that it puts us in, because we have to be profitable and growing, and multiple visits does not do that. It's neither profitable nor growing. Now, if we were like other window companies and we had a higher price point, then that's a little bit different. That makes up for the multiple visits that they know they're going to have to make, in which case Dan and I are going to have a problem with that. So I don't have a problem coming back in a couple days here, sir. I just don't. What I can't guarantee is this price is going to be the same. And you and I both know that if it's not, you're not going to go ahead and move forward, because nobody spends more when they know they could have saved it. Nobody does that. Nobody.
Well, that's
Not
great.
even you, sir.
Part of what I want on the recording. Would you use the word "I can't guarantee I'd come back at this price," or would you just say, because that's kind of leaving it open, or would you just say, "What I know is that I can't come back at this price"?
Well, for me, I always use the word I can't. I'm using I can't guarantee because that's an Apex thing. So I am trying to sit there and stay within some of Apex verbiage. For me, when I tell somebody, I tell them flat out, I cannot come at this price, period. We can't come back at this. And that's just the way it is. We can't come back at this.
Yeah, that's better. I like that better. Another reason,
So-
Terry, I think this is another reason that we should get the signs that we had talked about previously, the like another Apex homecoming soon. Because that's just another reason. It's like, well, hey, you know, if we wait 2-3 days even to come back, we don't get to put that sign in the yard that says another Apex homecoming soon. What if your neighbors across the street call another company tomorrow and sign a contract? We just lost out on that business. You know,
Well,
kind of goes back
absolutely.
to the whole reason of the discount too. So I do think we should get those signs.
I 100% agree. And like I said, look, it is okay in closing and overcoming some of this that we are transparent with our customers. It is okay. It's okay to tell a customer, hey, look, man, time is money for everybody. We talked about that earlier. Your time is no more valuable to you than mine is to me and my company's. Multiple visits causes more time. Somebody has to pay for that somewhere. Somebody has to. So if we were to continue to do that for everybody and all the time, which we hear all the time, then the only thing we would do is have to sit there and increase our cost, in which case you, the customer, would end up having to absorb that. So in order to keep that from happening, here's where we're at. Now, at some point in time, what I don't want to do is I don't want to be a company that rescission closes, and we do way too much of that goddamn rescission closing at this company as it is anyway. So I know some of you are thinking, well, I can just hit them with a 3-day right of rescission. Okay, I'm not a big fan of that. I do not like rescission closing. I think it's an unethical way to sell. Some people will agree, some people don't. If you don't agree, that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. But I wouldn't take the opportunity to rescission close here, just so you know. And if you are going to rescission close, you had damn well better clean the snot out of this up once you write it up to where you're not rescission closing. Then you had better clean the snot out of this. Rescission closing is unethical, in my opinion, and it makes for a weak salesperson to be able to say, well, let's put it on paper because you have 3 days to think about this shit.
I don't think he went down, just to clarify, I don't think he went down the rescission clause, because the thing that defines a rescission clause is that you literally are telling them they have 3 days to cancel, so they can make up their mind at that point. And that's not any part of what we said. We justified why we need an answer today. You know, so I
Absolutely.
think it's totally different.
So, but I do know that rescission closing is a thing for Apex. So I would just sit there and say, let's not get into that habit of rescission closing. Let's just be better. Let's be better and overcome that better. Okay.
I have one question, Terry. So,
That sounds like Pebbles.
yeah, that's me. Okay, so this was a little while back, but you set up the question of like, if you had a plumbing issue, you talk to a plumber, why would we not sit here together when you have a window expert? Or is it just that you didn't think you would spend this amount of money now? So.
Well, you don't want
went
you don't want to
we
say
went-
spend this time of money now. What you want to say, or is this more than you were prepared to spend?
Okay, so what if they said, yeah, what if they go down that road? Of like, yes, it's mostly just, I want to think about the money or whatever.
Okay, so a couple things here. If you are getting, the chances are you're not going to get that answer in the pre-close because we haven't given a price yet.
Got it.
See, chances are we're not going to get that because you haven't given a price. However, if we were in the close and you were getting that, and we were to make ask the question, or is this more money you're prepared to spend today? If the answer is yes, that's okay. That's a good, that is a hell of an answer. That's what we want. Okay, we fished a good answer here because then I can follow up with, okay, so this is more money than you were prepared to spend. So let me ask you this then. Since it's more money than you were prepared to spend, what were you prepared to spend then? What were you hoping this would be? See, that'll lead me straight into that. And I can ask that question now because of the way we asked it and the way you responded.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Does that cut, whoops. So no way, no 1 day decision. Does that cover that? Are you guys okay with what you just heard?
Yep.
Okay. Sleeping on it, just so you know, is going to be basically the same thing. What we have to do is get the customer down the word track of what exactly are they sleeping on? What are we thinking about here? Okay. What exactly are we thinking about? I need to sleep on this. Okay. Well, there's a couple ways to go about this to help a person think. Your presentation is it. So you remember all the commitments that you get, all the things that we've gone through, starting from the inspection and working our way down. Okay. So you said you need to sleep on this. So let me ask you a question. Earlier, when we inspected the windows, you said that the windows was obviously something you were going to replace someday because of the condition that they're in, and that they were costing you money on a daily basis. Do you still believe that, or were you just trying to tell me, were you just saying that to be nice? Do you really believe that? Let's get a commitment here. No, I believe it. Okay. And at the same time, based on the information I shared with you about our company, you said that Apex sounds like the kind of company you would entrust your home to. Do you really believe that? Or again, were you just saying that because the window man is standing here and you want to be nice? No, I believe it. And this is the window you want to put on your home over all others. Yes. Does the price and the payment, is that fair and honest? Look, if it's not fair and honest, oh, wait a minute, we're not at that part yet, so it doesn't matter. So I need to sleep on it. So if these are the things that you need to sleep, or these are the things that we know, then the question I would have is, other than price or payment, what exactly are you needing to think about here to make sure if this is the best decision for yourself? And the only reason why I'm asking is because if I had a question about the law, I'd probably talk to a police officer, a judge, or a lawyer. If I had a problem with my plumbing, I'd talk to a plumber. That's who I would have my discussion with. If we're thinking about windows, then think out loud with the window man standing here so I can help you. What exactly would we be thinking about here? We can't be discussing price yet because we're pre-closing when they're telling us this. So the only thing we can assume is a couple things. One, we didn't do a good enough job. Two, that there's a third baseman involved, that they want to talk to somebody else to get their opinion as to whether they should do this or not. Or three, they're still shopping. There's not a lot to think about here. There really isn't. Okay. Again, we're just selling windows and doors, ladies and gentlemen. We're not coming up with a new, secret ingredient for plutonium here. So we just have to kind of narrow things down a little bit. So we use our presentation to shut certain things down and then get that to where, so if we know the answers to these, then what would we be thinking about? What would we need to sleep on? What is it you're wanting to think about? What is it that you're not sure of? And then try to get an answer from here. Usually when you get to that point, they'll say something, well, I have another estimate, or, well, I still got to talk to my son, got to talk to your son. And then we'll go down that road then, and then we can address that issue there. Okay. I mean, does that make sense to everybody? Is that something that you sit there and think that doesn't make sense? Tell me what you guys think.
Well, one of my thoughts is when you're talking about, in the warm up, when we talk about, who do we normally consult, and they say, oh, I got the contractor uncle, blah, 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 and then we disregard it because they're not helping pay for the project. Is this a common place for that would pop back up? And, you know, of course, you're the window expert, but what would stop somebody, or how often do you actually encounter them coming back at you going, yeah, but you're also trying to sell me something?
Okay, so here's the deal. Typically, when you're pre-closing, what you won't normally get is I need to talk to my son. I need to talk to my contractor. You're normally not going to get that here at this point
Okay.
because you haven't given a price. When you give a price, that's when you're normally going to hear that almost every time if it is an issue there. And then we would address it there. However, since you brought it up, then let's go ahead and address that right now. Let's leave the contractor out for a minute because the contractor in my mind is a little easier to overcome than I have to talk to my son. So at this point in time, Miss Michelle, if you were sitting there telling me you need to talk to your son, by now I already know that your son doesn't help you financially. You're just trying to seek good advice from your son because we covered that earlier when I asked you financially or not. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so since you're telling me that, I would sit there and ask you, okay, so let me ask you a question then, Miss Michelle. What you said you got to do is you got to talk to your son. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Out of curiosity, if you don't mind my asking, what does your son do for a living?
He's a contractor. He works for a builder.
He works for a builder?
Yeah.
Okay, what type of a builder? Building homes, skyscrapers, what's he build?
New construction, he does neighborhoods and stuff.
So he builds houses is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we both know.
Windows. He used to sell windows.
He used to sell windows.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So my question on the table here would be a couple things. Number one, since your son used to sell windows, are we wanting to talk to your son so your son can sit there and let you know whether you're getting a good deal here? Is that what you're wanting to talk about?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so there's a couple things I would have to say to this then, Miss Michelle, a couple challenges here that's both not only unfair to you, but unfair to your son as well. Okay, number one, the fact that your son used to sell windows has no bearing on this right now. I know you think it does, but it doesn't. It'd be like me. I've had a driver's license for 40 years, but that doesn't make me ready for the Indianapolis 500. Your son has no idea if this is a good deal or not because he wasn't here to see it. And that's the unfair part to him, is that he wasn't here to see what you saw. It's also unfair that if he were to tell you that that's too much, for you to sit there and listen to something like that, again, for somebody that actually wasn't here. The other thing too with your son is because your son is a contractor, he deals with a contractor grade window. So I can tell you right now with all the surety in the world, not only can he get a price, it's probably a third to half of what we're at. But you're also going to sit there and be able to get his hands on a window that performs 60%, 70% less than ours does. There's supposed to be a difference in cost there. There is. Okay. So the question I would sit there and ask you though then is this. You talk to your son and your son were to sit there and say, yeah, boy, howdy, mom, I can get windows cheaper for you than that, for sure. What would your response to that be, man? What would you tell your son? What would you say?
Well, I mean, I don't know. If he can give me cheaper, I'd want to know how much cheaper.
Well, let me help you with the cheaper part. What if I tell you right now I could do every window in this house and I got somebody for you that can do them for $200 a piece? What would you say to that?
Sounds pretty good.
If a $200 window is what you want and have to replace these puppies about every 6 months, it is. But I can certainly go down. I can certainly go down to Lowe's and have somebody do that for you. But what you're going to get is all the stuff that you told me earlier that you don't want. You know, standard contractor grade aluminum, all the things you said you don't want. Or now, would you mind not having that by putting an inferior product on your home, knowing you're going to have to keep replacing it? Question on the table is that what you would want to do after you said you didn't? So where would that put us now?
Apparently I'm a liar.
Apparently it sounds like you are, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Which is horrible because I always thought that women would not sit there and lie to the window man like that. That's horrible. That's horrible. Now, here's another thing we have to look at now. Because of that, how much can we trust your son that a liar taught your son how to help? So what you got to do is you've got to narrow this down to put this into a position that, hey, look, number one, the contractor thing, no secret here. Your contractor son can get you cheaper windows for sure. All these commitments that we get earlier, all these things that we do, why we do through the pros and the cons and all that, all comes up in all these scenarios that you notice every time shit comes up. How often do I defend the product? Almost never. I go straight back into all the commitments and I get all the commitments that you gave me to overcome most of that shit. How often do you hear me talk about product? Almost never. That's why the commitments that we get and everything that we do matters, because now I can go back in a scenario like this and say, well, earlier you said this. So now you're telling me you don't mind in theory, you'll do that as long as you're getting a cheap price for a product that you're going to have to keep replacing. So where does that put us now? And then throw that puppy right back on the customer right away. Throw it right on them right away. This is why all the commitments that we get and all the things that we do, this is where all that bullshit pays off now, guys. Right here.
Do you have to do it
This
like
is where all
this,
that
though?
pays off.
Do you go
Do what?
earlier, you said, do you do the
I've-
notepad?
I've done it. I've done it. I've actually done this where I sat there with, sir, ma'am, folks, you said this earlier, and they'll go, wow, you know what? Hold on, check this out, folks. And I'll literally go, right there. There it is. It's right there. See, this is the reason why I told you I was going to write stuff down. Because I forget stuff.
Mhm.
Huh? So where's that going to put us then, folks? Where does that put us? Where does that put us? Okay. So more often than not, that stuff that you can do now. In this case, you use the contractor scenario, and that's why I was saying the contractor scenario is a little easier to overcome, because we're going to just go back to all the bullshit that you already said you weren't going to do anyway. That's a little easier. The one that's a little tougher to overcome is the one that's got to talk to a son or a daughter or a dad or a mom or whatever it may be. Our conversation is still going to be kind of sort of the same, but we have to change things up a little bit, you know? So for me, when somebody says, well, I got to talk to my son, what's your son do for a living? Well, my son sits there and he works for NASA. He puts all the satellites in space. Boy, howdy. Okay, well, I guess if I had a question on how to get to space, your son is it. There is no doubt. Okay. However, it does sound like your son is a pretty smart guy. So I hope that when my kids grow up, they're a part of a large production of society like your kid is. But let me ask you a question. Your son being the smart guy that he is, though, if he had a question about the law, who would he talk to? Cop, judge, lawyer, something like that? Yes. If you had a question about plumbing, who would he talk to? A plumber, right? Right. So if he had a question about windows, he would sit there and talk to a window man and ask the window man the question. So my question to you is, you have the window man standing here. Why would we sit there and talk to a NASA person about windows unless we were going to sit there and ask him through a window how to get to space? Then I could see that conversation that way. Or is what you're trying to do is you want to check with your son to make sure you're getting a good deal and then throw it out there at him just like that. Yeah, I want to know if I'm getting a good deal. Okay. Well, here's what I would sit there and say to that then, man. Number one, it's really unfair, both to you and your son. It's horribly unfair. It is unfair to ask him his opinion on something that he wasn't here to sit there and see, therefore he doesn't know. At the same time, too, if he were to sit there and say no and you were to listen to that, that is unfair for you to listen to somebody, son or not, that wasn't here to see the same things you saw. That is unfair. However, the question I will ask that's beyond that is, and then I go through my commitments. Earlier, you said this. Do you believe it's costing you money? Company for you. Can you trust our company? This is the window you want to put on your home over all others. Can you afford it? Does it fit in your budget? Fair and honest price. If all that is yes, well then, man, it sounds like to me that what we need to be doing is moving forward. Let me ask you this. Are you open to suggestion? Yes, I am. Great. Then let's go ahead and put this deal together. Get you taken care of. And then what you can do is call your son up and give him the good news as to what you did and why you did it, instead of asking for permission to do this or whether it's a good idea for somebody that wasn't here. And we don't want to put your son in an unfair spot, do we? That's the direction I would go in something along those lines there. So that's why I say that's a little more harder to overcome than the contractor is. But we've got to put them in that position, okay? I don't care if they're calling Gandhi. Gandhi wasn't there to see the windows. Gandhi does not get to have an opinion about something he didn't get to see. And son or not, we've got to get them to understand that getting their opinion on something that they did not see is not fair to either one of them. Does anybody disagree with anything that I just said right now at all? And anything that I just said, and by the show of hands, how many of you would sit there and think, well, that's an ugly thing to say, you're being ugly, Terry? Is there anything here that you heard me say that's ugly? You just have to have some stones a little bit, that's all, guys. We just have to grow some beads a little bit here for something like this, because it can be a tough conversation, but we do have to grow some stones here. But in the long run, here's the way I look at it. That's my money in that house, and I can't leave until I get it. I loaned them $4,000, and I want my money back before I leave because they promised they would pay me. So if that's the way you have to look at it to sit there and grow a little more gumption, then by God, that's the way you got to look at it. But we don't get paid unless we don't sell. We've been truthful and honest in everything that we've done so far. The least we can ask a customer to do is to sit there and make a clean decision, yes or no. I can deal with a yes or a no, but not maybe. And I certainly don't want to put it in the hands and get an opinion from somebody that was not there to see it. That is unfair for everybody involved. And that's what we have to point out. So that's how I would overcome something like that. Makes sense? No sense? I mean, agree, disagree? You guys tell me. Audience participation here, guys. This is a lot that we're going over. And some of this stuff, again, it can be a little, wow, that might be tough to say.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'll have to get over. I wouldn't say it's nasty, just I'm just like, if I was the homeowner and I heard those things, I would definitely be feeling the pressure. Not to use that word, but yeah, that feels like pressure. Yeah.
Well, and I would understand that, Cameron. And if you were a customer in a house with me and you sat there and said, well, wait a minute, this feels like a lot of pressure, I would then turn around and sit there and tell you, you know what, Cameron, I apologize, sir, that you're feeling that way, sir. I do. I apologize. And the reason why you're feeling that way is because of me. You know, keep in mind, pressure is perceived. And the reason why you're perceiving the pressure the way you're perceiving it is because of the way I'm delivering it. So clearly I need to work on that delivery, and I promise you I will. But at the same token too, though, sir, all I'm trying to do is get us to the point that you were sitting there talking about earlier, which is get you a fair and an honest price, get a payment in your budget that fits in the budget, and save you a tremendous amount of money by doing something sooner rather than later. So that being said, I mean, let's go ahead and get back into that, and I will work on that delivery so as you don't feel the kind of pressure that you're feeling. And then I'm going to lay it right back on them again.
Okay.
Okay. Pressure is perceived, and we have to let them know that. And the reason why you're perceiving the pressure the way you're perceiving it is because of the way I am delivering it. So I will work on that. However, though, just trying to get us to what we agreed upon, which is this, and this. So let's get back into this shit. Okay. They feel pressure. They feel pressure. It's not out of ugliness. We're not trying to be ugly here. You know, I asked everybody this question a long time ago, and I'll ask it one more time. By the show of hands, who really and truly believes that the product that we put out is the best product for our customers? Who believes that? By the show of hands. Okay. For those of you who raised your hands, for those of you who didn't raise your hands, number one, kudos to you for believing that. Kudos to you for that. Number two, for those of you that did raise your hands, though, then know this. When you walk out of a customer's house without a deal, then what you did is you fail that customer. If by putting up your hand, you really believe that bull crap that you sat there and believed when you did one of these numbers here, then you fail the customer, because that means if they're not buying your product because you think it's the best for them, then the only thing that's left for them is an inferior product. And we managed to walk out of a house letting a customer either live with the condition that they continue to have, or they're going to put an inferior product on their home because we didn't sit there and do enough to do our job. And that's the way you have to look at that. If you believe this, if you do, then that's the way you should look at it. Now, for those of you who don't believe that same thing, then I would sit there and tell you I agree with, for those of you who didn't raise their hand, I don't believe in any window, personally. My job is not to sit there and get you to fall in love with the damn thing. My job is to teach you how to sell windows. And that's all I know how to do, is just sell windows. Whether we sold windows with, you know, bamboo glass and rubber frames, my job is to figure out how to sell that. So I'm in love with no window. What I know is the product that I'm selling a customer is better than the product they currently have in their home. And because of that, I am doing that customer a good thing. I know that educating the customer properly, I am doing all the things for them that I know I can do. So that's how I look at it. So I'm with you on some of those that didn't put your hands up, but the ones that did, think about that for a minute. Don't walk out of that house and let a customer sit there and put an inferior product on their home because we didn't do enough or put it on a customer enough when we needed to. So that will, where the hell did it go? So I think we can pretty much cover that. You know, again, here's another one. Well, let's start here at the top. Look at the budget. Okay. Literally, when somebody tells me they have to look at their budget, they got to check their finances. Okay, fine, folks. I've got a couple phone calls I've got to go ahead and make. I'll step outside while you go ahead and do that. I am the worst computer person and technology person on this call. Fact. And even my dumbass knows that I can check my finances from my iPad. Even I know I can do that. So when somebody says they need to look into their budget, then the question we have to ask is, okay, you got to look into your budget. So let me ask you this. Are we looking into our budget so we can figure out where we're going to get the money from? Because obviously we know within our budget as to whether we can afford something or not. I mean, who here doesn't know what they can or cannot afford? Really? Who doesn't know that?
Stocks take a dive. I don't know.
Do what?
I had some stocks take a dive. My Bitcoin failed me.
Okay, that's awesome, but you're not pulling anything out of your stock if your money is still in that. So the question on the table is, are you trying to figure out where the money is going to be coming from, or are you trying to figure, because obviously you know whether you can afford something or not. So what are we trying to figure out when you said you want to look at your budget? So if you need to take a peek at the budget, hey, look, I'll step outside and make a couple phone calls I got to get to anyway. You check that budget, figure out where the money's going to come from, and we'll put everything together when I get back. Sounds fair? I mean, how does a person not be able to look at their budget? You know, or look at their finances? That's nuts. So, you know, looking at their finances and looking up their budget, how do you not know? Just put it on them and find out. What exactly are we looking for here? What are we looking at?
Gary, I think
You know?
too, just adding on to that, I think something that won't come up as much that did in the past with the way we did things before is we get a lot of people who would kind of be like, well, I need to just break down like the cost benefit analysis. And I'm an engineer, I have a spreadsheet, I want to go in and like see how much I'm going to recoup on this. Which if we're doing a proper job selling in the new way, where we're not just selling on price and strictly energy efficiency, that shouldn't come up nearly as much either, I don't think, because there's way more to it than just the savings on the utility bill too, you know?
Yeah, no, it's not going to come up as much. And even if it does, I mean, you want to address it right away. Typically, when somebody says that, what you usually hear from somebody is, well, I would put these windows in, I'm never going to get my money back. That's what usually they're going to say, just like that. I'm never going to get my money back. I'll never recoup my money back. Then hit them right between the eyes and address it right away. Well, sir, I'll be 100% honest with you. You're right. You're not going to. But here's the other thing I would sit there and say, sir. There is no remodeling you can do to your home, period, of any kind, that you're going to recoup 100% of your money back anyway. There's only one way to recoup money back on a remodel, one only. And that is adding square footage. Square footage is the only remodeling you can do that you'll recoup 100% of your money back. Other than that, kitchens, bathrooms, carpets, tiles, furniture, painting, whatever. There's nothing you can do that's going to recoup 100% of your money back. Nothing. So you might as well address it and let them know, look, I don't know what the hell you're thinking, but there's nothing you can do to recoup anything back, boss. Period. Period. There's nothing. So the other question I would have to now ask you, sir, if you're saying that, how is it when you're remodeling and doing things for your home, how are you doing stuff knowing that you're not going to recoup your money back? I mean, like an air conditioner. You're never going to get your money back on the air conditioner. So why would you put a new air conditioner in? Why not just keep the old one? If you're not going to be able to recoup it, why would you remodel your bathroom or your kitchen if you're not going to recoup it? So that's what I'm trying to figure out here. What exactly do you think that you're going to be able to recoup when you do anything like this? Now that we know that, let's look at it in a different way now. And then we'll walk them down a different word track, and then we'll show return on investment as opposed to them trying to recoup their money on just heating and cooling cost. Okay. But you might as well address it as soon as somebody brings it up. You might as well. The mistake everybody always makes is when somebody says, I'm never going to recoup my money. It's always, well, yeah, but look at the savings here. Well, wait a minute, stop. That's not the question, the issue. The issue is they believe they're not going to recoup their money. They're 100% right if they're looking at it in just pure heating and cooling costs. 100%. You might as well jump all over it and agree with them right away and let them know. Nothing else either is, though. Nothing else. No matter what other project that they have. So typically, when we're talking about other projects, since we're on this subject, what other projects are normally people talking about when we're telling them about windows? Carpet, flooring, kitchens, bathroom, roof, or solar. Those are your top 5 major. Would you agree or disagree?
I'd agree.
And none of those are they going to recoup their money back on any of them. None. None will they. Absolutely none. So you might as well address that right away when you're hearing it. You might as well. No sense in beating around the bush. And then what we'll do is we'll use return on investment and other things as we walk through a couple weeks ago on how to be able to do that. That will turn out to be a better conversation then. Okay. So looking at the budget, that's how I would sit there and cover that. Not going to be able to get their money back again. Just go straight at it and let them know, and then put it on to something else. Real estate agent. I don't know how a lot of you handle it, but with a real estate agent, for me, I want to know what exactly they're checking with their real estate agent on anyway, is what I want to know. I got to check with my real estate agent for what? What exactly are you talking to your real estate agent about?
I might be selling in a couple years and I wanna know if I'm gonna recoup my money.
It's ROI.
Okay, well, we already know and established the fact that we're not going to be able to recoup 100% of our money back. We already know that. So when you talk to your real estate agent and says, look, you're going to buy $30,000 worth of windows, but you're only going to be able to recoup about $16,000 of that in the value of the home. What are you going to say to that then, ma'am? When she tells you that, what are you going to say? Because that's what she's going to tell you. So you might as well be able to have an answer for me right now, because that's what she's going to say to you. So when she tells you you're only going to recoup half of your money, what are you going to say to that? Where's that going to put us?
I don't know, probably not gonna do windows maybe.
Okay, so we're probably maybe not going to do windows, but we're not 100% for sure. Because right now we're not even 100% sure that we're even going to sell the house, right? Because as you said, you probably maybe might sell the house. So let's look at it a different way. What if I could show you a way where you were getting most of your money back? What if I could do that?
Well, that would definitely make it more appealing.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a minute. Instead of talking to about a real estate agent who, whether she sells windows or not, or houses or not, is going to tell you what I'm telling you right now. So we've got to get past that. I would assume that's not the biggest reason why you wouldn't do it, or you'd have talked to them before you set up an appointment with the window man anyway. So how high on that priority list is that real estate agent really? Probably would have checked before we got out there, guys. Again,
You're giving me.
just an excuse to not buy right now is all that it is.
Maybe it'll come up as much either when we're not going to the door and saying, hey, we're coming in at 58% below market
Yeah.
value. That was the reason a lot of people who were like, well, think about selling in 6 months, so come out and see what we can do. That we won't.
Yeah, you're not going to get that like that. Some of this stuff that you guys are used to getting, you're not going to get this way, just so you know. Okay. Other quotes, by now, you should know how to handle the other quotes already. Based on what you've heard me say already and some of the things that we've talked about, you're going to handle your other quotes by going back through your pros and your cons. Earlier, you said this, and this, so I have to ask you this question here. Well, I heard what you said. Okay, well then fine. Who's the window so we can look it up? Again, if we know who our main competitors are, then we should know what everybody's selling. We have iPads. Hell, even I use an iPad in the house when I have to pull somebody up, like Capstone. Well, you know, Capstone handles the Anlin window and the Infinity. Let's pull that up. Here's where the differences are. Doesn't matter what they're going to tell you. It's in writing. It's right here. Here it is. It's right here. Then help them shop. Guys, you have iPads. You can use your iPads to help read. You know, you can Google those too, because that's what they're going to do. So help them. Pull that puppy up and help them. You know, but that's what you want to do with other quotes. The other quotes part is the easy part. Go through your pros and cons, get your commitments from what they told you about our window. Find out what Jesus Christ. Yeah.
You'll answer anytime, but you might text. You are.
So I can't, is there gonna be an appointment whenever?
Then go. Go and see what you can. Okay. Bye. So anyway, we you go through your pros and your cons. You go through all the stuff that we have that they don't. Take your commitments from there. And if you have to sit there and you can pull from them who's coming out, pull up their window. Let's see what window that they're selling. You know, let's see what window they're selling. You know, what I would hope that everybody here does is in a lot of your guys' free time on weekends is that you're pulling who your competitors are and you're pulling up their window and finding out. Just don't sit there and read some stupid review. Actually pull the window apart and look stuff up. See what their warranties read. See what they have that we don't have. See if you can find out what U factors and solar heat gains. Are they double versus triple? What kind of closers they're using, things like that. All this stuff will educate you. So when these people are talking about other quotes and who they have coming out, we can have an intelligent conversation and say, okay, great window. It's this, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. You know, 250 series window. What a great window that is. You know, one of the things about the 250 window that makes it so awesome is they have the strongest fusion welds in the industry. However, the drawback to it is they use a thinner gauge vinyl. They don't cover warping. At the same time, too, they use a block and tackle pulley system as opposed to a constant force balancer. They have 5/8 space as opposed to a 1-inch super spacer like this. And you walk yourself through that. So you can actually pull that up and say, look, see, it's right here. It's here. Don't take my word for it, folks. I'm glad you said that you're looking so I can help you look at these things because these are things that they wouldn't look at. All of you guys here have been selling windows for a while. All of you. Until I got here, how many of you have sat there and talked about the thickness, the gauge of a vinyl window? How many? How many of you sat there and talked about the difference in one kind of closer versus another? Or the different type of low E versus another, or the spacing between the two panes of glass versus another? None of you. And most of you are all window salespeople. So think about it this way then. then how does the average customer know what to look for if even you didn't? And this is what you chose to do as a living. So this is where we can take advantage of that when a customer is saying that and looking at other quotes. Let's take them shopping and talk to them about that. Hey, look, let me look that up, folks, because you're not going to know to look this up. You just never would have. Call them out. Tell them, look, you never would have looked at closers. I know you wouldn't have, because nobody does. Hell, I didn't do it until I got into this. And I replaced my windows before I came working here. And even I didn't do that. That's how you overcome the other quotes. The other quotes is actually fairly easy if you'll just walk yourself through the commitments and the pros versus cons. And if the customer will share with you who the company is at, who it is. You don't even have to know the window, just the company. As long as you know the company, look up the website. More often than not, it'll tell you the brand of window. Pull that puppy up and get after it. You know, and start pointing out the differences. So that's what I would do here. There's no real fancy conversation about this one. It's just a matter of going through your stuff. Contractor, I think we got that one already. Financial advisor. Financial advisor. I don't even like talking about the financial advisor because it doesn't come up enough for me to give a shit about. I mean, financial advisor, if you pitch 30 deals in a month, how often are you going to hear about it? Once, twice, maybe? Even if it's 3 times, that's still 10%. But again, financial advisor. So I've got to ask you a question. What are we checking the financial advisor about? Are you checking to sit there and see if you can actually afford it? Or are you checking to see if they think you should do it? Well, most of them will tell you, well, I know I can afford it. I just want to run. So why are we listening to somebody that wasn't here to see what you saw? How can they sit there and tell you this is something that you shouldn't be doing when they don't live with the condition that you have? Maybe their windows aren't costing him money on a daily basis. Maybe yours is. Maybe he doesn't care as much about his or her family the way you do about yours, so you want the added security. Maybe he's a heavier sleeper than you are. I mean, maybe all of this. Why is it we're listening to somebody tell you that they think you should or should not do something with your money, by the way, when they weren't here to see this? I would take this conversation back that I did to this one back over here. A financial advisor. I've never understood how somebody can sit there and say whether somebody should do something or not. A, with their own money, and B, that doesn't have the problem that these people I'm talking to has. That's what we have to point out to get them to understand what you're doing does not make any sense whatsoever. So if your financial advisor tells you, in his opinion right now, this is not a good time to buy windows, which I don't even know what that means. But if they were to say that, where does that going to put us, folks? Where does that put us? What's your response going to be to that? And if it's not a good time to buy windows, when is it? Since this product doesn't get any cheaper and it keeps getting more and more expensive throughout the year, and every window company in the industry has 2 to 3 to 4 price increases a year, when exactly is a good time? Or does it have to get at a certain price that your financial advisor says it's a good idea now? It's got to get high enough before they say yes. So what are we going to say when they say that? Put it on them and let's find out what an answer here is. Put it on them. If your financial advisor says no because of this, what are you going to say to that? Where does that put us? Where's your response? Let's see what they say. But again, it's the same statement. Why are we listening to somebody that wasn't here? And why are we listening to somebody that doesn't have the same problems that you have? Health. You know what? I don't even know. Look, I can't push health, guys, just so you know. All right. There are 2 kinds of people I don't push. I don't push the elderly. And when I say elderly, when they start getting up around that 80-year age, somewhere in that area there, it's pretty simple. I ask, they say no. I say, are you sure? They say, yeah, I'm positive. I'm done. Me personally, don't push old people. I just have a problem. If there is an Achilles heel I have, it's the elderly that I have one with. So I'm not probably the best person in the world to give you an answer here. I just don't push old people. You know, so I wish I had a better answer for you here when it comes to health and old people, but I just don't. Person's in bad health and they don't think it's a good thing for them. I'm done with it. I agree. The only time it's health, if the health is an issue, if it's lupus. If it's lupus, I'll push that. But if it's not lupus, and if that's something that my windows can actually help with, the unhealthy and the elderly, I kind of cruise my way away from that, and I handle that with kid gloves. Okay. So I hope that's a good enough answer, because I don't really have anything better than that. I've just always had that as my policy.
That's a good answer, because we had an old SSP here who did get a job on paper with this lady, and her daughter ended up calling a few days later and lit us the fuck up because she had some mental issues, and she was like, you guys took advantage of my mom, you pressured her into doing this, like lit us up with it. So I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is I don't want to be targeted by, I don't want to be branded by the attorney general that we're targeting old people. So I pretty much just handle old folks with kid gloves, and I try to be as nice and polite as I can. Try to be helpful. I'll ask for their business. If they say no, I say why. They say this, they say that. Sounds good to me, folks. Hey, listen, give me a call if you get the chance. I mean, if you ever decide to change your mind, holler at me. And I get out of there. Some of you may handle that differently, but that's what I do. So the unhealthy and the elderly, I just walk away, you know, if it becomes an issue. Research and shopping we'll cover later. Helping others we'll go ahead and cover later. I got to let you guys go. It's about that time anyway. I've got to jump on a phone call here that I am getting a flash here that says non-negotiable. So I need to jump on that one. And then I got to get off that. Cody, as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to try to get with you, buddy, so we can try to work on that, that Outlook thing, man. It's.
Yeah, I'll get you set up on it. Just give me a call when you're done.
All right. Hey guys, I appreciate everything. I don't have a lot of Q&A for right now. Do me a favor, if something comes up, write some things down. We'll cover that tomorrow and go over some more of this. This was a lot to absorb. I know there was a lot. I threw a lot of stuff out there, but we can cover things a little at a time, a little slower. I just wanted to make sure we at least got it all out today. So thanks for everything. I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate
Terry,
it.
thank you so much.
Thanks, guys and gals.
Get that
Pebbles,
arm
be
up.
cool out there. Do what?
So get your arm up.
Just start working this.
I'm doing this.
There we go.
I can't do that one.
Chat with you soon.
Blake.
So